I've been pursuing Yi for 10 years, only if he marries me before turning 28 can I avoid being erased by the system. But on the wedding day, the female host mistakenly said, "Will you marry me?" instead of, "Will you marry her?" The audience burst into laughter, but Yi's eyes turned red as he took the female host's hand and left the wedding. I do. Only then did I realize. Yi had always carried an unrequited love for his white moonlight. Now, she has returned, it's all over. "Will you marry me?" "I do." The hall fell silent as Yi uttered these words with reddened eyes. He ignored me, turned around, and walked away from the wedding venue holding the hand of the female host in a white dress who bore a 70% resemblance to me. It was supposed to be my wedding, yet I stood by like a spectator, the despair in my eyes almost palpable. "It's all over." The system's voice carried a hint of regret. She was Yi's first love, who left him to study abroad 10 years ago. Now she has returned, your mission has failed. The wedding venue was filled with noise, the murmurs of guests, the MC's attempts to maintain order, the furious curses of friends, yet I felt a deathly silence. Everything was over, my mission failed, and I'm going to die too. I've been strategizing for Yi for 10 years. Accompanied him from being a penniless young man to becoming the chairman of the nation's largest listed company, in hard times. I made him stomach-nourishing porridge late at night, picked up his drunk self after business dinners, and shared the same bowl of instant noodles with him. I once thought that companionship was the most enduring confession of love. I once believed I had truly entered Yi's heart, but now it seems those 10 years were just a joke. After all, the white moonlight remains the white moonlight. She didn't need to do anything, just stand there and reach out her hand, and Yi would follow her. "I'm sorry, host." The system's voice also carried a trace of inexplicable melancholy. "The time you can remain in this world is only 3 more days." I took several deep breaths, my chest feeling as heavy as if 2 large stones were pressing down on it. My friend held my hand, gently stroking my back, comforting me not to worry. Ran. "It's okay, that scumbag isn't worth your." I shook my head and asked all the guests to leave, after rejecting the comfort of family and friends. I left the wedding venue alone, waving in my spotless white wedding dress to hail a taxi on the road. In the taxi driver's shocked expression, I fought back tears. "Driver, take me to Pigeon Beach." Pigeon Beach was where I met Yi and also where I accompanied him in starting his business. There stands a shabby little rental house, the place that holds all my beautiful memories. I only have 3 days left. I want to die there. Yes, perhaps seeing me leave the church in a pure white wedding dress. The driver remained silent for a long time. When the car stopped at Pigeon Beach, I picked up my phone to pay, but the driver waved his hand and refused. "No need, young lady, take it easy. As long as you're alive, there's no obstacle you can't overcome." When Yi left with his white moonlight, I didn't cry. Amidst the complex gazes of the full hall of guests, I didn't cry, yet the driver's sudden, out-of-nowhere words of comfort unexpectedly shattered my defenses. After the driver left, I crouched on the ground crying, my heart aching with each throbbing pulse. Yes, there's no hurdle that can't be overcome, but I'm dying. After walking for a long time on the muddy path of Pigeon Beach, I finally found that familiar shabby little building, a 2-story concrete building, room 203. That was the place where Yi and I spent our toughest 3 years, silently dragging my wedding dress already stained with mud. I slowly turned the key several times in the rusty iron door of room 203. Perhaps due to years of neglect, the iron door was extremely dilapidated, emitting a harsh creak sound when opened. The door next door opened. A permed auntie stuck her head out and scrutinized me curiously for a long while. She suddenly asked me excitedly, Ran. I forced a smile and nodded with difficulty. The aunt immediately rushed out wearing an apron, grabbed my hand, and said warmly with a smile, "Do you still remember me? I'm Auntie Lou, when you still lived here. I was your next door neighbor." Of course I remember. Back then, Yi and I always came home late from work. Whenever we were too tired to cook, Auntie Lou would drag us to her place for meals, hands on her hips. Aunt Lou was very warm-hearted, pulling me aside to chat about past events. "What about that young man? You two should be married by now, right?" As Aunt Lou kept talking, she finally noticed my pale complexion, reddened eyes, and the mud-stained white wedding dress. She stood there dumbfounded for a long while before slowly patting my back. "It's all right, girl, there are plenty of good young men in this world, just stay here peacefully, I'll introduce you to someone better than him." I barely held back the tears welling up in my eyes, said goodbye to Aunt Lou, and entered that tiny rented room. a place filled with memories of me and Shiryi. The room was very small, a double bed, a dust-covered table, and a half-human-sized panda plush toy. These were all that Shiryi gave me. Sitting on the bed, I gently stroked the panda plush as tears streamed down my face. Don't cry, Ran. Ye was wrong, Ran. Don't cry, Ye was wrong. The shabby doll clumsily flickered with light, emitting a mechanical voice. This was my first birthday spent together with Shiryi. I cooked noodles at home, waiting joyfully for Shiryi to return, but he didn't come back all night. The next afternoon, when Shiryi returned, his eyes were red, covered in dust. And he looked utterly exhausted. Perhaps to make it up to me, he gave me this panda plush toy. I was very happy at that time. The panda Shiryi gave me. I really like it, but later I found out, Shiryi's white moonlight is called by Ranxiang. The panda was referring to Ran and by Ranxiang, too, rather than the Ran and Gu Ranran's name. That day wasn't just my birthday, it was also the birthday of Shiryi's white moonlight. That night, he carried the panda plush all night, trying to airmail it abroad to his white moonlight. But because the plush contained lithium batteries, it couldn't be shipped by air, so Shiryi still didn't succeed. He brought the panda back and threw it to me like trash. The poor panda, treated like garbage, just like my love. That night, I lay on the small bed where I once slept with Shiryi, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep for a long time. 7 years had passed, yet the bed still carried a faint scent of lemon. Shiryi's distinctive fragrance. Once, I was utterly infatuated with this scent, but now, it only makes me feel nauseous. My chat history with Shiryi still stops at last night. Darling, we're getting married tomorrow. I'm so nervous. What if I can't sleep? Don't worry, darling, after we're married, you'll manage all the money, and I'll take care of sweeping the floors. Last night, Shiryi was still nervous about our wedding. Today, he chose to abandon me at the wedding, walking away hand in hand with someone else. What's more, Shiryi didn't even glance at me when he left. But thinking about it, it makes sense. He only saw me as a substitute for Shizuka by Ranxiang. Now that the real one has returned, a mere substitute like me can naturally be discarded at will. Right now, Shiryi is probably enjoying a romantic moment under the moonlight with his beloved white moonlight, lost in mutual affection. I thought miserably, yet my eyes remained fixed on the chat box. Through tear-blurred vision, I suddenly saw several lines of text pop up in the chat box. Gu Ran, where have you gone? Is it just because I didn't marry you, so you're going to disappear and play the suicide card, is that it? Don't you get it yet? I don't love you at all. I've transferred 3 million to your account. Take the money and get lost. If you want to die, then go die. A sharp, stabbing pain pierced through the heart. Shiryi's tone was as stiff as when we first met, couldn't even bring themselves to say a simple I'm sorry. 3 million. I accompanied Shiryi in his entrepreneurial journey for 10 years, witnessing his rise from a penniless, down-and-out youth to a renowned young entrepreneur in the city. The money we earned during that time was far more than just 3 million, and yet, would someone who truly loved ever care about money, then just go die? These dark clouds seemed to loom over my heart, impossible to dispel. But Shiryi, I'm really about to die. Tears welled up uncontrollably again, but I struggled to hold them back. My hand hovered over the typing area of the chat box for a long time, only to realize I had nothing to say to him. In the end, my finger hovered over that red delete friend option. Goodbye, Shiryi, whom I've loved for 10 years. The night was already deep. The cold wind outside seeped through the loosely shut window frame, making me shiver uncontrollably. When Shiryi and I lived here 10 years ago, the windows were always loose, and the room temperature would drop shockingly low every night. Back then, Shiryi would always hold me tightly, pressing close to transfer his warmth to me. During those winter years, though bitterly cold, whenever I was outdoors, I felt as warm and bright as springtime. Now, lying alone in bed, I finally realize the bone-chilling cold. My heart throbs with pain as I lie aimlessly. Perhaps I'll just die like this. As my corpse stiffened and grew cold, Shiryi was embracing his white moonlight in a night of passion, whispering sweet nothings in her ear, just as he once did with me. The phone pressed against my ear suddenly emitted a sound. I opened my phone to see a new friend request flashing on the screen. It wasn't Shiryi. The friend request from the other party was a short line of text. I'm by Ranxiang, Shiryi's white moonlight, also the Ran mentioned by the panda plushie, the woman who truly possessed Shiryi's heart. I clicked agree, then scrolled into her social feed. Honestly, I'm quite curious why. Why does this woman who somewhat resembles me get to hold Shiryi's entire heart without doing anything? Why did I give my all, only to end up with nothing, even at the cost of my life? What does the white moonlight have that I don't? The first post in the social feed is a 9-square grid of photos. In the frame, Shiryi smiles tenderly and affectionately, holding by Ran Xiangxiang tightly as if afraid of losing her again. Shiryi was still wearing the suit from our wedding, so that day, after abandoning me, he couldn't wait to take these affectionate photos while embracing his white moonlight. They looked so happy together, as if I had never existed in the first place. The caption beside the photo felt more like a sharp, poison-dipped dagger, brutally piercing my heart. In an instant, blood gushed forth. 10 years apart, you're still you, and I'm still me. P.S. We're getting married in 3 days. Getting married in 3 days. I suddenly felt like laughing. 3 days later would be the day my mission failed and I'd be erased by the system. It was also the day Shiryi married his first love. The system's voice suddenly rang out. Disgusting. You could tell there was a hint of resentment even in the system's voice. The system continued speaking. Gu Ranran, I can see that you've tried hard enough these past 10 years. I can give you a choice. Choose how you want to die. Choose how I die. I sighed. Since it's death either way, the manner of dying makes no difference to me. The phone kept ringing. It was a message from Shiryi by Ranxiong. She sent me an address. Our wedding is in 3 days. I hope you can come. Looking at those words, I suddenly had an idea. I'm sorry, sister, but Shiryi has always liked me. Even if he marries you, he won't be happy. A few more lines of text popped up in the chat box, accompanied by an image. It was a hand wearing a diamond ring. The diamond ring was beautiful, with 2 sculpted butterfly diamonds dancing on a silver band, interwoven in dreamlike hues of blue and red. A tear finally broke free from my eye, trailing down my cheek and landing on the picture of the diamond ring on my phone. This is the diamond ring Shiryi bought for me. Do you think it's pretty, sis? Back then, before my sister appeared, Shiryi promised me that he would buy this diamond ring for me in the future. Bai Ranxian then sent a string of messages. I was at a loss for words, my mind in a daze, as if I had fallen into a gray fog where I couldn't see my own hand in front of me. That diamond ring, I still remember a week ago. Back then, sure Ranxian hadn't appeared yet, and Shiryi hadn't abandoned me. At that time, I was extremely happy, looking forward to the wedding with Shiryi. I dragged him to every bridal shop in the city, trying on all the wedding rings. In the end, I chose a ring. The salesperson told us, this wedding ring is called Butterflies in Love with Flowers, inspired by the love story of Liang Shanbua and Zhu Tai, symbolizing couples flying together and lasting forever. I pestered Shiryi to buy this diamond ring, but Shiryi coldly refused with a stern face. He didn't give me any reason, just frowned and pulled me out, then casually chose another wedding ring with a heavier diamond weight. At that time, I didn't think much about it, only now do I realize. It turns out Shiryi didn't dislike butterfly love, he disliked me. 3. Perhaps he is Liang Shanbua, but I was never his Zhu Tai. Bai Ranxiang is the one. As for me, I am nothing, perhaps just an insignificant extra. My fingers trembled as I stared at the message in the chat box. Bai Ranxiang sent another message. Sister, don't blame me either. Shiryi doesn't love you, so why bother? Forced affection isn't sweet. Perhaps I actually helped you, sister. She sent a screenshot of the chat. It was a chat history between Shiryi and her. In the chat box, Shiryi's voice messages were translated into Chinese characters, making my heart bleed as I read them. Beneath that familiar avatar were lines of hurtful words. Darling, you know, it's always been you in my heart. If it weren't for Gu Ranran looking like you, I wouldn't have been with her. During all those days with her, I was thinking of you every single day. These words were like the final straw that broke the camel's back, completely shattering my love. I never imagined that in Shiryi's eyes, I was always just a dispensable substitute. Bai Ranxiang finally sent a message. Heh, sister, you'll come to our wedding in 3 days, right? How ridiculous. How I wish you could see Shiryi and me in our happiest moments with your own eyes. I nodded slowly and finally replied to her. I'll come. A plan began forming in my heart. Since the system has given me the chance to choose my own way to die, then I shall die at Shiryi's wedding. Let him witness my death at his happiest moment. More devastating than a white moonlight is a dead white moonlight. I want Shiryi to never escape the shadow I've cast over his life. I want to die at Shiryi's wedding. The cause of death, myocarditis caused by being drenched in rain all night 3 years ago. Lying on the bed, I murmured to the system. At night, a sudden pain shot through my chest, like having an iron shard stuck in the lungs. Each breath brings excruciating pain. This chronic illness of mine has been with me for a long time. That was 3 years ago. That night marked the 7th anniversary of Shiryi and me being together. I joyfully ordered Shiryi's favorite hot pot and carefully prepared gifts for him, but Shiryi never showed up. When I found him, he was completely drunk in a bar, covered in filthy vomit, mumbling syllables I couldn't understand. Only later did I learn, that night, Shiryi's first love got a new boyfriend abroad. After hearing the news, Shiryi got completely wasted, never imagining there was still a girl waiting desperately to celebrate their 7th anniversary with him. The rain was pouring heavily, with street water rising up to my calves. To prevent Shiryi from catching a cold in the rain, I draped my coat over him and carried him through the floodwaters, taking an entire night to finally make it home. Indeed, Shiryi didn't catch a cold that night, but I was the one who developed a fever. The high fever left me delirious. Lying on the sofa weakly calling Shiryi's name, at that moment, I longed for him to come over, hold me, bring me warm water and cold medicine, and take me to the hospital. But when he woke up from his drunken stupor and saw me unconscious with a high fever, he merely furrowed his brows, hypocritically asked what was wrong, then hastily threw on his clothes and walked out the door. That day, I lay at home alone with a high fever for the entire day. Meanwhile, Shiryi bought a plane ticket abroad to go find his white moonlight. He didn't get to meet Bai Ranxiang. Back then, Bai Ranxiang had hooked up with a wealthy foreigner and was indulging in a life of luxury, completely forgetting about Shiryi. It wasn't until evening that Shiryi remembered to call and ask how I was doing. How was I doing? I had been drenched in rain all night, running a high fever that wouldn't break, my whole body weak and trembling. At that time, I even felt like I was about to die. I went to the hospital alone. I registered, saw the doctor, bought medicine by myself, and then slowly walked home alone. At the hospital, I met Su Wanbei, who was also left unattended. At that time, Su Wanbei was already a renowned entrepreneur in the city, achieving fame and success at a young age. Compared to Shiryi, who was just a small-time employee back then, Su Wanbei shone brilliantly with his excellence. He took me to see a doctor and get examined. That was also the day I was diagnosed with myocarditis. Su Wanbei sent me home. I lay on the sofa feeling utterly miserable, shivering from cold, when Shiryi finally returned with a worried expression. Trembling in discomfort, I begged Shiryi to pour me a glass of water, but Shiryi merely glanced indifferently at my medical report before giving me a disdainful look. It's just a minor illness, stop being so dramatic. In the end, he still didn't pour me that glass of water. The system's voice rang in my ears. Alright, we'll do it your way. 3 days later, you will die at Shiryi's wedding. The cause of death is myocarditis caused by getting caught in the rain 3 years ago. I forced a smile, revealing an ugly grin. The first day has already passed, only 2 days remain until the day I'm supposed to die. I want to make up for something. I picked up the phone and dialed that number, Su Wanbei's phone. Can you come find me? 4. The other end remained silent for a long time. I could hear heavy breathing, and mixed within it was Su Wanbei's uniquely hoarse voice. What's wrong? His voice was heavy yet gentle, just like when we first met at the hospital. My tears couldn't be held back, breaking through my eyelids and sliding down my cheeks. Gradually, my crying grew louder and louder, from quiet sobs to loud, heart-wrenching wails. Su Wanbei never hung up, just softly repeating on the other end of the line, "Don't cry." Ever since Shiryi abandoned me and left with his white moonlight, I've been suppressing my emotions, but now, listening to Su Wanbei's heavy breathing on the other end of the phone, I let down my guard and cried my heart out. I don't even remember how long I cried, until finally, with a hoarse voice, I asked again, Su Wanbei, can you come find me? The other side was completely silent. After about 2 or 3 seconds, Su Wanbei hung up the phone. A heavy weight suddenly pressed down on my heart. Su Wanbei, do you not want to see me anymore either? I suddenly feel like a child abandoned by the world. However, this isn't Su Wanbei's fault. Back then, I chose Shiryi over him. Between the two, resolutely abandoning him, it's only natural that he resents me and refuses to see me. The night grew deeper, and the cold crept up my back like clinging maggots. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I got up and coughed violently several times, the agony as if I had coughed out my very heart. Cough. Cough, cough. I looked at my palm, where a pool of blood I had just coughed up lay. It seems the death method the system promised me has already begun to take effect. I will die from myocarditis at Shiryi's wedding. I pulled a tissue from the nightstand and wiped away the bloodstain on my palm, accidentally pressed the panda plushie beside me. Don't cry, Ran Ran, Ye was wrong. Don't cry, Ran Ran, Ye was wrong. how ridiculous. In the end, the only thing that can accompany me is this panda plush toy. Shuri doesn't want me anymore, Suwonbae doesn't want to see me either, I'm so pitiful, I smiled self-deprecatingly, turned over, and tried hard to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, around 4 or 5 o'clock, the wooden door suddenly creaked, and a low, hoarse voice sounded outside. Gu Ranran, open the door, I know you're here. It was Suwonbae's voice. A ray of sunlight suddenly emerged in the darkness, so, he was still willing to see me. I opened the door, and Suwonbae's face was right before my eyes. He was wearing a black scarf, his head covered in white snow, the streetlight behind cast a pale yellow halo. Suwonbae's nose was red from the cold, yet he seemed utterly unfazed as he pulled me into a tight embrace. Gu Ranran, I'm sorry, I'm late, not late at all. Feeling the warmth in Suwonbae's embrace, my nose tingled with emotion. My salvation has arrived. At the very least, he redeemed what little remained of my final 2 days. Suwonbae is my only friend, if you could even call it that. The first time I saw him was on that night when I fainted from high fever, while Shuri went abroad to find his white moonlight, when I collapsed on the hospital floor from high fever. The passers-by avoided me as if I were the plague, my mind spun with dizziness. Only able to hear the chaotic murmurs around me. What's going on? Why did she suddenly faint? Stay away from her. Don't get involved. How pitiful. Where are her family members? Her boyfriend? Did they just let her come to the hospital alone? Boyfriend? At that time, Shuri was probably searching for her unattainable love overseas. I closed my eyes in despair, no longer wanting to hear the surrounding gossip. In a daze, I was lifted by a pair of gentle, large hands. It was Suwonbae. Though it was our first meeting, I inexplicably felt a sense of familiarity radiating from this handsome man with thick, dark eyebrows. As I hazily opened my eyes, they met directly with Suwonbae's gaze. He smiled beautifully and mumbled to me, your eyes are very beautiful, Gu Ranran. That was the first time I met Suwonbae, yet he knew my name. What's more, the way Suwonbae uttered my name felt incredibly familiar, as if he had said it countless times before. Later, I once asked him how he knew my name at that time, but Suwonbae just looked at me with a faint smile, saying nothing, yet I could clearly see deep, lingering affection in his eyes. That night, Suwonbae took me to register, receive treatment, get medicine, and then sent me home. I could sense his tension from his tightly clenched hands and protruding veins. At the doorstep, Suwonbae suddenly asked me, where's your boyfriend? I was at a loss for words. I shook my head. Shuri went to find his first love. Suwonbae looked into my eyes and after a long pause said, actually, you could consider other people. I understand what he means, but my mission in this world is to conquer Shuri. If I fail, I'll die. I have no other choice. Thinking about it now, perhaps Suwonbae would have been much more suitable for me. From that day on, Suwonbae and I exchanged contact information. I knew he seemed to harbor deep feelings for me, but I couldn't respond to him. I could only treat him as a friend. Through Suwonbae's connections, I helped Shuri establish partnerships with many business contacts. It's fair to say that Suwonbae played a pivotal role in Shuri's transformation from a penniless young man to a billionaire entrepreneur. He helped me unreservedly like that, silently watching as I got together with Shuri. The day before I decided to marry Shuri, I once called Suwonbae to invite him to our wedding. At that time, Suwonbae remained silent for a long while. In the end, he only left these words, Gu Ranran, your happiness is enough, and also, your eyes are very beautiful, you should smile, don't cry. After that, Suwonbae left this place and chose to go abroad. I thought he had decided not to see me again, but when I called to meet him once more, he appeared before me again. If time could be rewound, I would choose to be with Suwonbae. To hell with mission failures and system erasures. But fortunately, I still have 2 more days left. 5 waves of pain surged through my chest again, suppressing a cough. I smiled and tightly hugged Suwonbae, who was covered in snow outside the door. Suwonbae, I really wanted to see you. Suwonbae remained silent. He just held me tighter. I felt a sudden warmth against my neck. It was Suwonbae's tears. Suwonbae held me like that, letting me sob my heart out in his arms, smearing snot and tears all over his expensive coat. Only when I finally cried myself exhausted, my voice hoarse, did he gently ruffle my hair and whisper by my ear, Ranran, come, I'll take you somewhere. Dazed, I let him carry me into the car, watching as it sped away from Pigeon Beach toward the nearby shoreline. The sea lies right beside Pigeon Beach, less than an hour's drive away. I love the sea deeply, the vast azure ocean and the boundless sky above it. During those years living in Pigeon Beach with Sheree, I told him countless times that I wanted to see the sea. It would have taken just a short hour, but he always brushed me off with various excuses. Sheree said he was busy with work, that he had social obligations, that it was just the sea and nothing special to see. I genuinely believed his nonsense at first, thinking he might just not like the sea, but when I saw Bai Ranxiang's social media post last night, I finally realized. Sheree had actually made a promise with her all along, to see the ocean for the first time in their lives together. It wasn't that Sheree disliked the sea, he simply didn't like me, he just wanted to save that first experience for Bai Ranxiang. The seaside air is fresh, rushing into my lungs, invigorating my spirit immensely. Su Wangbei smiled as he tucked a blue butterfly flower into my hair, pointing at the sun just rising over the sea. Ran, look, every day brings a new sunrise. With fresh sunlight bathing this beach, so, it's just that the sunlight wasn't right for you. Perhaps you could try watching the dawn of the next day. His voice was low, as if hesitating about something. The man who once dominated the business world with maturity and steadiness now fidgeted awkwardly like a teenage boy. I suddenly raised my head and kissed his lips fiercely. But Su Wangbei, I no longer have the chance to choose. I'm going to die, I sighed inwardly, feeling a tearing pain in my chest. I kissed Su Wangbei's lips frantically, even biting his tongue until it bled. If possible, I'd like to sit here quietly with Su Wangbei, watching the sea until the end of time, but I can't. I'm out of time. As the sun set and night fell, Su Wangbei drove me back to the room at Pigeon Beach. He didn't leave that night. I was the one who made him stay. He hugged me tightly like a big fluffy dog, sleeping soundly. The moon hung high above the wall, frost covering the branches. My heart ached with throbbing pain. The system's voice chimed in at just the right moment. Host, tomorrow is Sheree's wedding. If you want to die at his wedding, then it's time to go. I sighed, clutching my throbbing chest. Su Wangye was still holding me tightly. He mumbled something indistinctly under his breath. Ran. Don't go, don't leave, I smiled, a somewhat relieved smile. At least someone in this world still cares about me. But I must go. I don't want to die in Su Wangbei's arms, letting him watch as my body slowly turns cold. I hope in his eyes, I'll always be the most beautiful. In a vast expanse of white snow, I left Pigeon Beach. When I arrived at Sheree and Bai Ranxiang's wedding holding a bouquet of white butterfly flowers, the ceremony had already begun. Sheree in a black suit stood beside Bai Ranxiang in a white dress, a perfect match between talented groom and beautiful bride. The two of them looked truly perfect together, but originally, the one who should have been standing at the altar marrying Sheree was me. Now, I feel like an uninvited intruder, surrounded by awkwardness and all sorts of strange glances. A sharp pain shoots through my chest. It's the precursor to another myocarditis attack. I couldn't hold back anymore. Covering my mouth as I coughed violently several times, blood was coughed up into my hand, blooming into one crimson flower after another. On stage, Sheree and Bai Ranxiang smiled with tender happiness, but the atmosphere was abruptly shattered by my sudden coughing. Only then did they notice the figure in the audience, me, also wearing a white wedding dress, but now filthy and stained with mud. Sheree's eyes were clouded with a thick layer of gloom, his thin lips pressed into a straight line. His face frozen in a frosty expression as he gazed at me indifferently, looking at my pale face, which stood in stark contrast to Bai Ranxiang's heavily made-up appearance on stage. Gu Ran, what exactly do you want? His voice was icy and piercing. In the past, whenever he put on a stern face and spoke to me in this tone, I would carefully comfort him and cater to his every whim, afraid of displeasing him. Perhaps he thought he could still use the same old methods to deal with me. Gu Ran. Don't you understand yet? I never loved you. The only reason I'm with you is because you look like her. Sheree walked down from the stage with a cold expression and came to my side. His words cut through my heart like a knife, leaving it bleeding profusely. The surroundings erupted in noise. The guests at Sheree and Shizuka's wedding appeared like a crowd of indifferent spectators, coldly staring at the scene before them. How ridiculous, even after being abandoned. She still shamelessly chases after him. I've never seen such a brazen woman. Who wouldn't say so? If I were her, I would have killed myself long ago, not wanting to face such humiliation. Harsh words kept reaching my ears, making my heart ache. My heart is throbbing with pain. My vision was filled with dizzying stars, and I nearly collapsed weakly to the ground. Yet Sheree didn't reach out to steady me, instead sneering coldly. Gu Ranran, have you even looked at what you've become? I must have been blind back then. How could someone like you ever compare to Ranran? I was momentarily speechless, only able to stare helplessly at Shurye's once so familiar face. Once, this face had held my hands, smiling as it told me, "You're the most beautiful girl in the world." Now, he looked at me with demonic disdain, saying, "You're not even fit to compare with Ranran." Through the wedding venue's glass, I caught sight of my own reflection. At that moment, I felt a surge of astonishment. The reflection of my face in the glass had somehow become pale and haggard, with purple lips and disheveled hair, looking as weathered as a 40-year-old woman, but I'm only 27. Over these years, to help Shurye rise step by step, I've hardly rested properly and rarely spent money on dressing myself up. Shurye's face was full of disgust. But Shurye, I became like this all for your sake. Once, I was also a flower-like girl. The wedding venue was filled with noise. The groom before me should have been my husband, but now I stand here like a sudden intruder, a beggar at a loss. Host, unfortunately, the death countdown has begun. 1 minute remaining. The system's icy, emotionless voice echoed in my ears. The last minute, I felt as if my heart was being tightly gripped by a hand, about to be crushed at any moment. Bai Ranxiang clung to Shurye's arm, her white dress making her face appear even more radiant and charming, with a coquettish smile playing on her lips. 6. Compared to my haggard appearance, Bai Ranxiang was so beautiful she seemed otherworldly. She grabbed Shurye's arm, feigning coquetry as she persuaded, "Oh, no, it's my fault. I shouldn't have come back to the country, shouldn't have disturbed you and sis." As she spoke, teardrops formed on her face, her pitiful expression designed to tug at heartstrings. Shurye's expression darkened further. He reached out to wipe the tears from Bai Ranxiang's face, then turned to glare coldly at me. "Gu Ranran. What exactly do you want? Didn't I already say it? I'll transfer 3 million to your card as compensation." I opened my mouth, wanting to say something. 3 million, but Shurye, do you really think I care? Unexpectedly, Shurye waved his hand impatiently and signaled the security guards to drag me out. They roughly grabbed my dress and pulled my arms, their immense strength leaving several bruises on my skin. As I looked at Shurye, my heart sank to the bottom. "Gu Ranran, get out." Shurye's face was full of anger as he yelled at me. He felt so unfamiliar, nothing like the Shurye I remembered. "Weren't you threatening to disappear? Weren't you going to kill yourself?" Shurye continued shouting. My heart felt like it was being split in two by a knife, the pain unbearable. Death countdown. The system's voice sounded. "I'm going to die." 3. Shurye shielded by Ranxiang behind him and pushed me out. 2. "Go die already." Shurye roared at me, my heart beat slower and slower, gradually stopping its pulse. 1. Like a butterfly whose life has faded, it stopped fluttering its dazzling wings and fell into a muddy patch of dust. In the last second, I struggled to open my eyes and looked in the direction of Pigeon Beach. I have completely lost hope in Shurye, but I still want to see that person one more time, that man who was like a warm, big dog. I don't know if he'll come. Su Wanbei, if there's another chance, I'll definitely choose you. Gu Ranran. I saw a black car stop in front of me. Su Wanbei rushed out of the car with tears streaming down his face, holding me tightly, completely disregarding the pools of blood I was spitting out that stained his expensive coat. He still came. Su Wanbei, it seems he has never let me down. I closed my eyes and took my last breath, lying peacefully in Su Wanbei's arms, asleep like a fairy returning to a warm harbor. For some reason, after my death, my soul didn't immediately dissipate but instead hovered in midair, overlooking everything before me. The system's voice sounded. "Since you're already here, you might as well stay to see the ending." There was a hint of regret in its voice. I nodded, watching the commotion below like a detached spectator. Because of my death, Shurye and Bai Ranxiang's wedding naturally couldn't continue. After the guests had left, Shurye stared blankly at my lifeless body in Su Wanbei's arms, his face turning ashen. He stood frozen for a long time, his lips parting slightly, but ultimately failing to utter a single word. Bai Ranxiang was also terrified by the scene, her legs trembling uncontrollably. She instinctively grabbed Shurye's sleeve, her voice quivering with tears. "Yay," but Shurye roughly shook her off. I saw Shurye turn his head and roar at Bai Ranxiang, "Shut up, if you hadn't come back, she wouldn't have died." I just wanted to laugh, a cold laugh. Has Shurye always been like this? The faults are always others, as if he's never done anything wrong. Bai Ranxiang was startled by Shurye's tone. With reddened eyes, she shrank to the side, not daring to utter another word. Shurye slowly walked up to my corpse, reaching out to caress my face, but Su Wangbei shoved him away violently, causing him to stumble. Su Wangbei's eyes were deep red, like a beast protecting its young, growling low, "Get out." Shi wasn't usually one to have a good temper, but this time, he just stood back up from the mud, dazedly asking, "What happened to her?" Su Wangbei didn't speak, gently carrying me back to the car before turning around and delivering a fierce punch to Shi's face. The punch was so powerful that it broke Shi's mouth and knocked out his 2 front teeth. "What's wrong, ha?" Su Wangbei kicked again, sending Shi sprawling to the ground. "Myocarditis caused by getting caught in the rain, did you know? When she went to the hospital alone and collapsed on the road with high fever, where were you? When she hid alone at Pigeon Beach, crying her heart out, where were you?" Shi took punch after punch from Su Wangbei like a mindless fool. He didn't resist, just muttered in the mud, "Myocarditis, caught from the rain. Where am I? Where was he?" He was abroad. Trying to reconcile with his unattainable love, he remembered that day when I, pale-faced, begged him if he could pour me a glass of water, pleaded with him to take me to the hospital. Even when he saw my medical records, he still resolutely chose to leave, to go find Bai Ranxiang. It's snowing again, heavy snow, covered the pools of blood I coughed up onto the ground. Su Wangbei paid no more attention to Shi. Driving me away from the wedding venue, Shi remained lying dazedly on the ground, letting the heavy snow cover his body, his face. His eyes were glazed over, muttering incessantly, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? Had I known, I wouldn't have left." Why, how ridiculous. Some people only regret after they've lost something. Bai Ranxiang stood up from the side, trying to help Shi up, but Shi pushed her away like a wild beast, shouting with red eyes, "Get out, it's all your fault." Bai Ranxiang left. In the vast expanse of snow, only Shi stood like a solitary bird, imprinting the white snow. Shi went to the hospital where I had my checkup. From the doctor's hands, he received my medical records from that year. "Myocarditis caused by severe cold from prolonged exposure to rain." A line of text pierced Shi's eyes like a sharp blade. He recalled that night, because he heard Bai Ranxiang had a new boyfriend abroad. He got completely drunk. It was me who braved the heavy rain to bring him home. That very night, I caught a severe cold. 7. As for him, he resolutely went abroad to find Bai Ranxiang. Shi walked out of the hospital in a daze, with red-rimmed eyes. He tightly clutched the medical report in his hand and took a taxi to Pigeon Beach. Coincidentally, the taxi he hailed was the same driver who had taken me to Pigeon Beach that day. On the way, the bored driver started recounting his experience of picking me up that day. Ah, that young girl looked so pitiful. Still wearing her wedding dress, her eyes swollen from crying. What kind of scumbag would abandon such a wonderful young girl? The driver kept chattering the whole way, but Shi didn't respond a single word. The driver looked puzzled. "Don't you think so, young man, young man? Hey?" He turned around and saw Shi in the back seat, his face already streaked with tears. Shi came to Pigeon Beach and knocked on Aunt Lou's door next door, wanting to ask what I had been doing at Pigeon Beach during those 3 days. But Aunt Lou didn't say a word when she saw him, just slammed the door shut with a cold expression. Shi stood dumbfounded outside the door, hearing Aunt Lou's curse from inside. "Scum." He opened the small house we once lived in, that tiny room 203, slept on the little bed we used to share, and stared blankly at the moon outside the window. The panda plushie was held in his arms, yet carried no warmth at all. In the pitch-black night, the panda plushie made a faint sound. "Ran, don't cry." Ye was wrong. Ran, don't cry. Ye was wrong. Shi's tears streamed down, soaking the stuffed toy. "Goo Ran, why didn't you tell me? Why?" In the dead of night, Shi went mad. He tore at the stuffed toy like a madman, smashing every object in the room, recklessly unleashing his fury. It seemed this way could alleviate the guilt in his heart. Shi stayed in the small room we once lived in at Pigeon Beach, going without food or water for a week. Only then did he choose to leave. But the moment he returned to the city, he saw 2 familiar figures, Bai Ranxiang, with Su Wangbei. Bai Ranxiang held Su Wangbei's arm, smiling with utmost tenderness. Once, Bai Ranxiang used to hold his arm like this too. Shi rushed forward, frantically pulling Bai Ranxiang, demanding to know why she cheated. Bai Ranxiang merely cast him a faint glance and spoke with a cold laugh. "Shi, do you really think I love you? If I loved you, why would I have gone abroad back then? And why would I have fallen in love overseas?" Shi was stunned. Bai Ranxiang continued, "Because I don't love you at all." Shi stood frozen in place, only managing to speak after a long pause. "But, you came back to find me. That's because you're rich now. Bai Ranxiang burst into laughter as if she'd heard the funniest joke. Because you've got money, you're no longer that penniless loser you used to be. I don't love you, I love your money. Do you understand? Shirye's eyes turned red. In the end, the only one who ever truly loved him was that silly, naive Gu Ranran, and what Bai Ranxiang loved was merely the money Gu Ranran helped him earn. Bai Ranxiang tightly clung to Su Wanbei's arm beside her. Now, I've found brother Wanbei, he's richer than you, much richer. Do you really think I'd still choose you? Throughout it all, Su Wanbei just stood with folded arms, his expression unreadable as he calmly observed the scene before him. After a moment, he finally spoke. Addressing Shiyi directly in front of Bai Ranxiang, pathetic, isn't it? You abandoned someone who truly loved you, for something that could be bought with money. Bai Ranxiang remained silent, not even a change in her expression. As if the thing Su Wanbei mentioned that could be bought with money wasn't her, Shiyi went mad, his mind was in a daze, eyes bloodshot. He pulled out a dagger from nowhere and suddenly stabbed it into Bai Ranxiang's chest. It's all your fault, it's all because of you, you bitch. If it weren't for you, Ranran wouldn't have died. Die, go to hell with Ranran. The heavy snow fell, mingling with Bai Ranxiang's bright red blood, creating a particularly gruesome scene. My soul hovered in midair. Watching all of this unfold, Bai Ranxiang is also dead. What do you think? The system's voice echoed in my ear. Just feels dull, I replied, because Shiyi still blames others for their own mistakes to this day. Shiyi was arrested for committing murder in public. The court ruled to confiscate all property and sentenced the defendant to life imprisonment. Shiyi's remaining life would be spent in the pitch-black darkness of prison. Bai Ranxiang also died. Su Wanbei returned to his company as if nothing had happened. He sold his company, donated all the money to a charity, then moved to Pigeon Beach, living in the room I once occupied. Every morning he'd drive to the seaside to watch the sunrise, never forgetting to bring that panda plush toy. I thought everything was over, but a year later, Su Wanbei went to the prison to visit Shiyi once. I clearly saw that when he entered, he had a bag of pesticide fertilizer in his pocket. When he emerged, I saw a glistening tear streak down Su Wanbei's face. Gazing at the vast sky and pristine snow, he murmured softly, Ranran, I've avenged you. Shiyi died in prison. The cause of death was food poisoning. When he died, he was still looking in the direction of Pigeon Beach. Everything is over, I whispered to the system. It's all over, right? Not yet, but the system responded to me like this. Let me show you what you were like 10 years ago, before you accepted the mission to pursue Yi. The system's cold voice rang out. Before I could answer, a dizzying flash of bright light appeared before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I found my soul outside the window of the hospital's intensive care unit. Inside the room, a much younger Su Wanbei sat dazed by the hospital bed, holding a photo with a haggard expression. In the photo were teenage versions of me and Su Wanbei. We were embracing each other, gazing at the vast sea before us, laughing freely. When did I ever take a photo with Su Wanbei? Could it be that we knew each other over a decade ago? My gaze skipped past Su Wanbei and landed on the figure lying on the hospital bed. That was clearly me in my younger days. I seemed to remember something. Everything from the past flashed before my eyes like a movie. Do you remember now? The system's voice echoed in my ears. Do you remember why Su Wanbei knew your name the first time he met you? Do you remember why Su Wanbei loved you so inexplicably? I remember now. Su Wanbei and I grew up together. As a child, he pointed to the dazzling butterfly love's flower diamond ring in the display case and told me he would give me one that big when he married me someday. We could have stayed together just like that, naturally getting married, having children, and growing old. But when I was 17, I got into a car accident and fell into a coma. It was during that coma that I accepted the system's mission to win over Shiyi. When I woke up again, I had already forgotten everything from my past. I forgot Su Wanbei, forgot Dai Lianhua, forgot our vows, with only one thought occupying my mind to pursue Shiyi. Yet Su Wanbei still tried his best to pretend to be someone who had never known me, silently accompanying me, watching me hurt myself for Shiyi, watching me get hurt by Shiyi, crying bitterly on Pigeon Beach. Then, avenge me, Ranran. Open your eyes and look at me. In the hospital room, Su Wanbei, with tears in his eyes, gazed at my unconscious form and whispered, your eyes are so beautiful, I long to see them just one more time. Even in this spectral state, I felt my heart shatter with unbearable agony. My soul transformed into a vibrant butterfly, alighting on Su Wanbei's fingertip, dancing softly before him. Gu Ranran, the system's voice sounded. Begin a new conquest mission. Conquest target, Su Wanbei. I opened my eyes on the hospital bed, and before me was Su Wanbei, whose gaze was filled with nothing but me. Perhaps before, everything was wrong. 8, but it's okay, this time, let's be together properly. 2 colorful butterflies danced outside the window, flying higher and higher, higher and higher. This time, I've finally found my Romeo. Story 2, my boyfriend, UCI, is a complete control freak with an insanely strong and pathological possessiveness. I finally couldn't stand the torture and broke up with him. However, what I waited for wasn't more crazy and coercive means, it was the news of his death. He committed suicide, reincarnated back to the time before I broke up with him. I lowered my eyes and looked at the man who was carefully patting the inside of the ankle cuffs with soft fabric. I raised my foot and stepped hard on his shoulder, curling the corners of my lips provocatively. Stop dawdling. Are you going to do it or not? If you have the guts, make me unable to get out of bed. Make me unable to go anywhere. Stop with all this useless stuff. 1. Can I eat you? That way, you can stay inside my body forever. When you see I said this, his head was buried in my chest, his scorching breath sprayed above my heart, and my surging blood vessels suddenly constricted for a moment. My scattered consciousness gradually focused, and I pushed him, but I couldn't move him. I groped for a cigarette from beside the pillow and stuffed it into my mouth. But I couldn't find the lighter no matter how hard I tried, and I felt irritated. Then you'll be pooped out as shit, won't you? No, you'll become a part of me and stay with me forever. I bit the filter tip of the cigarette and gave a soft snort. Human cells can all be metabolized into new ones in 7 years. By then, I'll completely disappear and no longer exist. Taking advantage of the moment when he was in a daze, I pushed him away, sat up, and picked up the shirt beside me. It was torn to such an extent that it was completely unrecognizable. The pants were the same. It was a complete mess. I just took out a new pair from the wardrobe, and before I could put them on, I was pressed against the wardrobe door. I don't want you to disappear. As he spoke, he secretly moved his waist, getting closer and closer. I said coldly, I still have a social engagement. Can't you cancel it? The ends of his hair rubbed chaotically against the base of my neck, making it itchy and prickly. I dodged, but was immediately held down firmly. I've checked. The cocktail party later has no real value. Do you really want to talk about business? Or do you want to flirt with other men? Here we go again. I've told him countless times not to investigate my schedule, but he just turns a deaf ear. Aren't you annoying? Are you annoyed by me? A wet and warm kiss landed on my shoulder, lingering all the way to the side of my neck, and landed on the throbbing artery, turning into a gentle nibble. You love me the most, don't you, Chindai? You said that you love me the most and only me. I closed my eyes and was about to lose my temper when I was interrupted by a click. A cluster of blue flames sprang up in front of me. The cigarette was lit, but before I could take a puff, UCI took it away. The thin mist curled up and dispersed along with his soft chuckle. I didn't say you couldn't go, as long as you carry. Suddenly, a strange foreign object invaded me. I widened my eyes and struggled with gritted teeth after realizing what happened. Are you crazy? The cigarette ash fell on my forearm, and my body instinctively shrank. UCI took the opportunity to succeed easily. As long as you're good, I won't activate it. He blew into my ear. Don't try to take it out yourself. I have real-time reminders here. 2. UCI broke his promise. Just because I didn't answer his call in time, I clenched my phone tightly, quickened my steps to hide the embarrassing buzzing sound, and pushed open the door of the restroom. Unfortunately, there was an acquaintance inside. Are you okay? He looked at me with concern. So the frequency was immediately turned up to the highest level, and my legs went so weak that I almost couldn't stand. The cocktail party was full of nobles and they were chatting and laughing merrily, but I was in the narrow cubicle, dealing with the thing that UCI had forced on me in a way. The man outside the door didn't leave for a long time. People in this circle have seen all kinds of ways of having fun. A whistle was blown in a frivolous and playful tone. Mr. Chin is really in the mood. Why are you using the tricks for male escorts on yourself? The footsteps approached, and then the door panel was knocked. Do you need my help? Push it in, or take it out. On the other end of the phone, UCI was aggressive. Chindai, who is he? What are you doing? Why are you taking it out? Wait, I'm coming to find you. I pressed my forehead against the cold tiles. The shame receded, and a deep weariness welled up. In fact, this kind of weariness started a long time ago, but at this moment, for the first time, I seriously thought about that question. Why did I indulge UCI? indulge him in depriving me of my freedom, trampling on my dignity, and interfering with my normal social interactions? Was it because he met my aesthetic standards and I fell in love with him at first sight and forcefully took him for myself? Was it because we had been together for too long, from the age of 18 to 28? Was it because I owed him 3 lives? I turned my phone upside down and sat on the toilet seat, quietly smoking a cigarette. After exhaling the last puff of smoke, I sent him a message. You see, it's over between us. This was the most severe lesson I could think of, and I hoped that he could learn to restrain himself from now on. 3. Afraid that he would imprison me again. When I went to the apartment to get my things, I called 5 bodyguards with me. Unexpectedly, he was very calm. I hadn't seen him for a few days, and the loose white shirt looked a bit empty on him. Maybe he knew I was coming. So he tidied his hair and shaved his beard in advance, watching my men carry things out one by one. You see, I suddenly asked, did the cigarette ash that fell that day scald you? I knew him too well. I raised my chin to signal 2 bodyguards to stop him from coming forward to hold my hand. Sure enough, he revealed his true nature the next second, through the 2 bodyguards. His beautiful light-colored eyes stared fixedly at me without blinking, and his eyes were dark, chin-dye. He pursed his pale thin lips and pulled up a curve that could hardly be called a smile. Do you think people will become ghosts after they die? I didn't say anything, so he continued to talk on his own. I wish I could become a ghost, then I could follow you forever. Wherever you go, I'll go. I don't have to worry all the time about what you're doing and who you're with, whether you have fallen in love with someone else. It was just a bluff. Even if he became a ghost, he would be a cowardly one. He didn't even dare to ask me why I broke up with him, whether I had really fallen in love with someone else. Unfortunately, I could no longer answer him. He fell in the exhaust fumes of the car as I left, and his white shirt was stained with the glow of the evening clouds like a raging fire. Only late at night would I admit that I felt a bit regretful. As for what I regretted, I couldn't tell. A long time later, I was scalded by cigarette ash again. I stared blankly at it as it floated gently to the ground, and somewhere in my heart collapsed. It turned out that the answer was hidden in the ashes. I regretted that I didn't answer him at that time, that I was indeed scalded by the cigarette ash, but not burned. It left a light red mark smaller than a cherry petal, and it didn't hurt at all. But when I searched all over my arm for this cherry petal, I couldn't find it no matter how hard I tried. After all, 7 years had passed, and all the human cells had been replaced. It had been metabolized. You see, I had completely disappeared and no longer existed. 8 years after UC's death, I was knocked down by someone who rushed out from the crowd while inspecting a construction site. This time, no one blocked the knife for me, and I fell into a pool of blood without reservation. As my consciousness faded away, there was only one thought in my mind. Would I also become a ghost? But when I opened my eyes again, I saw UCI kneeling halfway beside the bed, carefully patting the inside of the ankle cuffs with soft fabric. 4. Sensing that I wanted to pull away, he suddenly grabbed my ankle tightly, his eyes cold. Do you want to run away? I didn't actually want to run away. I stared blankly at the dark bruise on the corner of his mouth. Without thinking much, I leaned over and kissed it. It was warm. It wasn't a dream. UC's body suddenly tensed up, and then gradually relaxed. Stop pretending. Didn't you hit me? I hit him. The memories came flooding back to 9 years ago, a year before I broke up with him. My family didn't recognize my relationship with UCI and forced me to go on a blind date. It was with a wealthy family of the same social status, in a top-class high-end music restaurant. But UCI ran out and messed everything up. To maintain the relationship between the two families and to give the other party an explanation, I symbolically punched UCI, Chandai. It's no use begging me now. Give up this idea as soon as possible. UCI had a gloomy expression. You provoked me first. You said you loved me first, and you can only belong to me. I suddenly laughed. He was taken aback for a moment, and his face became even darker. Is it that funny? What did I do before? I held his head and said sorry, and promised him over and over again that I only loved him. Because of that bit of guilt, I tacitly endured his repeated out-of-line behaviors. The pathological control freak was actually cultivated by me, and then, I discarded him with my own hands. I laughed until tears welled up at the corners of my eyes. I raised my hand to wipe them away, and then traced his face carefully with my eyes again. My gaze moved down inch by inch and landed on his rolling Adam's apple. In the moment when he was distracted, I raised my foot and stepped hard on his shoulder. As I ground my foot, the thin chain on my ankle jingled, shining with golden fragments of light under the warm yellow bedside lamp. In this floating fragment of light, I curled the corners of my lips provocatively. Stop dawdling. Are you going to do it or not? He pressed down on my instep. And I calmly stepped on the center of his leg with my other foot. Come on. Still no reaction. If you really have the ability, try your best to make me unable to get out of bed, make me unable to go anywhere. Stop with all this useless stuff. Now both of my feet were caught, and I was pushed down on the bed. He pressed down on me like a mountain. His eyes were gloomy, with dark tides surging. Chindai, do you know what you're saying? I directly met his gaze, and the smile on my face grew wider. I said that if you leave me any strength at all, I might climb into someone else's bed. I'll call him husband, lie in his arms and smoke the same cigarette after sex, and listen to him blowing smoke rings and thanking you. Thank you for your fulfillment, for giving me to, You see, suppressed anger burst out in a powerful rush, instantly engulfing me. I was like a small boat helplessly bobbing up and down in the turbulent waves. And finally ran aground on the isolated island named UCI along with the waves. Completely exhausted, my hand slipped off his body, and my fingertips gently that hard bulge. It was a knife wound that went through, very close to the heart. It was left by UCI when he stood in front of me to protect me at the age of 18. He always thought the scar was hideous and terrifying and didn't want me to see it. Over time, I almost forgot that he almost lost his life because of me. And his parents who actually lost their lives. In a moment of distraction, UCI pushed aside the hair on my forehead that was damp with sweat, and returned the provocation in the same manner from a superior position. Do you still have any strength left? The gloomy coldness from 2 hours ago was nowhere to be seen, and his eyebrows and eyes were filled with the flamboyant spirit that I missed. He was satisfied. And I really couldn't get out of bed anymore. 3 things. Take my phone and transfer 800 yuan to yourself, carry me to take a shower, change the bed sheets and then go to sleep. UCI directly skipped to the second step. I'm not short of money. As a top trader, he really wasn't. I didn't force him and let him pick me up. Don't you want to know why it's 800 yuan? UCI hesitated. Finally, he put me down and obediently transferred the money to himself. I glanced at his receipt status and curled the corners of my lips. Well, you worked hard tonight. Keep up the good work next time. UCI was stunned for a moment. His knuckles holding the phone suddenly turned white, and he looked at me in disbelief. What do you take me for? Currently, you're still my boyfriend, but starting from today, I'm going to introduce a scoring mechanism. I'll transfer money to you according to your performance, with no upper limit. Today you did manage to make me unable to get out of bed, but you ignored my requests halfway through. So I can only give you this much. My body felt sticky and uncomfortable, ignoring the rapidly dropping low air pressure around him. I said calmly and urged, shower. He stood still, his black eyes fixed on me. I don't understand. Do you want to break up with me? I don't want to for now, so I hope you can take it seriously. If one day I don't transfer money to you after you've done something, it means we're really over, finished. Do you understand? Looking at his pale face without a trace of blood, I pursed my lips and added in a brisk tone, of course, this isn't a one-way game. The money transferred to you counts as chips. When it reaches a certain amount, you can ask me to do things in return. It's okay to go a bit overboard. His thin lips moved. For example, telling you the lock screen password, taking the initiative to reject other men from getting close, going to the company with your thing in my mouth. UCI interrupted me coldly. I can make you do these things without using chips. He had returned to the gloomy look when he caught me on the blind date. What about getting married? As expected, UC's body shook violently, like a cedar shaking off the snow. Trembling slightly, I gave a soft laugh. As long as there are enough chips, I'll stay with you forever. 5. Forever. I've heard UCI say it countless times, but I've rarely said it myself. In my last life, I lost UCI forever. This time, I can't guarantee that I won't repeat the same mistake a year later, but one thing is very clear, I don't want to regret it anymore. I don't want to toss and turn in the middle of the night, imagining what the outcome would be if I hadn't broken up with him, if I had let him hold my hand. I want to mend his feelings of being worried about gaining and losing, and correct his extreme and suspicious mindset, with the confidence accumulated by the increasing number of chips. I will firmly catch his fall. After ending a meeting, I sent a message to UCI. What are you doing? He replied quickly, watching the market. He's always well behaved during the trading hours, mainly because he knows my whereabouts and knows that I'm also working seriously. Has the meeting ended? How did it go? As expected, I ignored this question and took a photo of my lower body. The belt cinched my narrow waist, and my long legs wrapped in suit pants were casually crossed. I suddenly want you. Come to my office. After sending it successfully, I turned my phone upside down, estimating the time from the apartment to the company. I instructed my secretary to move the next schedule forward. When you see I pushed the door open and entered, I was shaking hands warmly with a business partner, our palms tightly overlapping. The expressions of both of us changed. One was surprised, and the other was gloomy. I smiled at the business partner. It's okay, he's my person, let's continue. You see, I walked wordlessly to my side and sat down. A fragrant smell of body wash swept over with the flow of air. He had taken a shower. There was also the cold scent of shaving foam and mouthwash. He put in a lot of effort, but unfortunately, I didn't appreciate it. You see, go and wait for me over there. He glanced at the corner I pointed to, and the light in his eyes turned 2 shades colder. What do you mean? I showed just the right amount of confusion. Don't you understand? I'm dealing with business matters. He stared at me in silence for a few seconds, then stood up, and sat in the position I had designated. The scheduled half-hour meeting seriously exceeded the time limit. During this period, you see, I had been staring expressionlessly in this direction. I ignored him and continued the conversation enthusiastically, until he looked away for the first time, lowered his head and pressed the screen to light it up. I stood up in a timely manner. Let's call it a day. As soon as I saw the person off and before I could say anything, I was pressed onto the desk by UCI. Having endured it for too long, his actions were much rougher than usual, but this fierce conquest that was bound to happen ended before it even began. UCI lowered his eyes and looked at the hand I had placed on his chest, his expression extremely bad-looking. I smiled indifferently. Sorry, I have another meeting later. How about we forget it for today? Are you playing with me? He said it through gritted teeth. He was really angry. Don't you know best whether I have a meeting or not and how important it is? He didn't say anything and didn't let me go either. We just remained in a stalemate. After a long time, I hooked my arm around his neck and leaned in. Come on, I know you made preparations. Well, give me a kiss then. You see, I still didn't move. I wasn't going to spoil him either. Fine, if you don't want to kiss, that's okay. This time he finally moved. His warm lips covered mine. I didn't say I wouldn't kiss you. When the kiss became the most passionate, I pushed his shoulder. It's time for the meeting. The firm chest in front of me was still heaving. You see, I took a deep breath and straightened up, supporting himself on the desk. I picked up my phone, transferred the money to him, and then slowly sat up. He stared at the screen and said in a stiff tone, "Why is there an extra 0 compared to last time?" Because it felt good. 2 hours of intense struggle was not as good as 2 minutes of kissing. The line of UC's jaw tightened, and he stubbornly persisted as if nothing had happened. Was it not good last time? It was okay, but you were very obedient today, so I couldn't help but give you a little more. I turned on the front-facing camera and pressed my lips. Good, there were no marks, and it wouldn't delay the meeting. UCI stood aside and lowered his eyes, taking in all of my actions. My heart stirred, and the hand that was about to put the phone down pressed back again. My fingertips lingered on my lips, slowly rubbing and tracing the seam of my lips, and gently probing inside. Out of the corner of my eye, I clearly saw UC's Adam's apple rolling, his eyes obscure, and a bulge in his suit pants. Based on my understanding of him, he might have thought of 800 different positions on the way here. Now he has only kissed me once, and his desire is far from being satisfied. So what? I had already called a stop. After he couldn't help but take half a step closer, I tilted my head back and pretended to be confused. Is there something else? The man's large palm stroked my thigh and hooked onto the belt buckle. Don't go to the meeting. Of course you can, I replied quite readily, but my tone turned cold. However, you have to return the 8,000 yuan to me first. As I spoke, I reached out and grabbed the corner of his phone. UCI was taken aback for a moment and immediately clenched his grip. Why should you take it back? Because you want to go back on your word and you violated my affirmation of your obedience. Don't you think that a kiss is worth 8,000 yuan? I tugged at it but couldn't pull it away. UCI hastily hid his hand behind his back. No. Oh. So are we still going to do it or not? I'll go home and wait for you. He really didn't force me anymore. He said he would go home and then he went home. This was the first time that he had consciously restrained himself and taken the initiative to pull away, in order to be with me forever. The places on my body that he had touched were still surging with heat. I pressed the back of my hand against my burning cheek and let out a soft sigh. Since he could succeed for the first time, there would be a second time. Someday, we would surely develop a normal way of getting along as a couple. Right. 6. The alarm clock rang only once before it was turned off. You see, I got out of bed softly and quietly. Then, some sounds of making breakfast came from the kitchen. I stared at the ceiling in a daze for a while. In my previous life, you see, I hated the time from waking up to going out the most. He was like a big dog with separation anxiety, constantly spinning around me and interfering with my every move. Even if we can live to be 80 years old, we only have a little over 50 years left. It's too short. Why do we have to waste time on unimportant people and things? Can't we be together every moment? Chandai, don't go out. Okay, I'll support you. Such conversations happened every day, until he committed suicide and passed away. I, who had always liked to stay in bed, would reflexively throw off the quilt and get out of bed the moment the alarm clock rang, not daring to delay for even a second. I was afraid that when I came to my senses, there would be no warmth of his body on the other side of the bed. I was afraid that his sleepy plea would automatically ring in my mind. I was afraid that my emotions would be filled with the of never having responded to him. The meal is ready. Do you want to sleep for a while longer? My gaze shifted from the ceiling to UC's face. I shrank a little deeper into the quilt. Just 5 more minutes. In my 36-year life so far, I could be considered to have handled things with ease and made a great impact in my field, but having the initiative in my relationship with UCI was truly a first. UCI lay down beside me, and the 5 minutes were extended again and again. My secretary sent the confirmation of today's schedule. When I scrolled to the end, my fingertips stopped. It was a high school alumni reunion. My memory isn't very good, and this thing happened so many years ago that I can't remember exactly what happened. I just remember that after coming back from the alumni reunion, UCI, as if having an episode, chained me to the head of the bed and tortured me for a day and night. Do you want to go? His chin rested on my shoulder, within my tolerance range. He was both restless and obedient. Yeah, I'm going. Those people are now all influential figures. They're just talking about business in the name of reminiscing about old times. Although I already knew the answer, I still asked him, what about you? Of course, an alumni reunion is a hotbed for cheating and infidelity. I'm going to keep a close eye on you. It wasn't an aggressive interrogation. What a cute possessiveness. I turned around and stroked his face. The bruise had long since disappeared, and I couldn't help but lean in and kiss him again. He has a face so handsome that it makes both gods and men resentful. No matter when I see it, it makes my heart pound. My fingertips suddenly curled, except for that day, and every day after that day. I lowered my eyes. Yeah, keep an eye on me, just like that. In a moment of distraction, I gave up my original idea of fishing for evidence. There will be plenty of time in the future. There's no need to correct him so strictly. In such an occasion, it might be nice to give him enough a sense of security. Thinking this way, during the whole gathering, I deliberately maintained an appropriate sense of distance, just enough to get the point across, but I still couldn't prevent enthusiastic people from putting their arms around me and getting handsy. I glanced at UCI. His expression was calm, and he didn't show much reaction. The heart that had been hanging all night finally settled down. It seemed that the training during this period was indeed effective. As the gathering was coming to an end, my childhood friend, who was always late, finally arrived. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and he walked straight towards me. He was the only one among this group of people that I could talk about old times with. He was also the prospective best man. He had been busy with the overseas branch office in the past 2 years, and we hadn't seen each other for quite a long time. Damn it, the plane was late. I'm starving to death. He put his arm around me and walked towards the buffet table. Accompany me to eat something. I showed a bit of genuine smile. What's the hurry? No one's going to rob your food. Just as I picked up the plate, he suddenly changed the subject and lowered his voice. Why are you still with him? I was taken aback for a moment and subconsciously turned my head. You see, I hadn't followed, so he probably hadn't heard. Just have some fun with him. Don't really get yourself involved. I'm not just having fun, I'm quite serious about it. My childhood friend glanced at me and stuffed a large mouthful of pasta into his mouth. I know you feel indebted to him, but your family has given him enough financial support over the years. You've even helped him achieve a class leap. What more do you want? I slowly frowned and was just about to reply when there was a loud crash behind me. UCI was crouching halfway beside the dessert tower, and in front of him was a pistachio macaron that had been smashed into pieces. The waiter quickly came to deal with it. I instinctively took a step towards him, but my arm was grabbed. You see, this is the result of trying to force yourself into a circle that doesn't belong to you. You've really been abroad for too long. Your meanness has seeped into your bones. I turned cold. Before you open your mouth, go and find out who the big private equity boss your dad is trying to curry favor with is. His expression was blank for a moment, and then his eyes slowly widened. Holy shit, is it him? I ignored him and shook off his hand, walking towards UCI. Are you okay? UCI looked at me, his expression very calm. I didn't hold it steady. Ooh, do you like it? I rarely see you eat desserts. Let the hotel send some to our home, no need. He glanced at my childhood friend not far behind me. Are you done talking? I nodded and took his hand. Let's go home. His palm was astonishingly cold, even when our fingers were intertwined. I couldn't warm it up, so I simply stuffed our hands into the pocket of my coat together. UCI struggled slightly, just once, and then let me do as I pleased. When I looked up, I caught a glimpse of the gloom that flashed across his face, and an inexplicable sense of unease welled up in my heart. It seemed that there was something I had overlooked, but I had shown my attitude, and I had also clarified what needed to be clarified. What else could be wrong? I shook my head and tugged at him. The gathering was over, and everyone walked towards the parking lot in twos and threes, casting subtle glances in our direction. My relationship with UCI wasn't a secret in the circle, but I had never publicly admitted it. Kiss me. UC's hand curled up. I'll kiss you at home. Humph. A coward who only bluffs with me, right now. Here, kiss me. He still didn't move, but the temperature of our intertwined palms rose, and it was warm in the pocket of my coat. I lowered my voice and brought out the chips. 100,000 yuan. The light in UC's eyes flickered, and he slightly lowered his head and pressed his lips against mine. The magnificent ceiling of the hotel was dazzling. I closed my eyes and responded to him. But he neatly pulled away when I wanted to deepen the kiss. He even pulled his hand back. I had always disliked putting my private life out in the open. Once, someone who was nosy gossiped about it in front of UCI. I neither denied nor confirmed it and fobbed the person off with ambiguous answers, so I thought that UCI must have been quite disappointed, which was why he kept asking me privately over and over again whether I really loved him or not. This intimacy now was a kind of affirmation of our relationship from me. But why does he look? Are you unhappy? No. UCI pursed his lips. But don't do this outside in the future. It's not appropriate. The person who forced me to go to the cocktail party with that thing in me now keeps saying it's not appropriate. I'm too lazy to refute. 7. The car stopped steadily downstairs, but UCI still sat there without moving. UCI, he turned his head, and the cold light of the phone screen shone on his face, casting a shadow under his stern features. On the screen was the record of my transfer to him, and he was calculating. Chindai. UCI turned off the screen and looked at me seriously. How much more do I need to be able to make a request? I was taken aback for a moment, and my tense nerves gradually relaxed. What was this? So he had something he wanted. Our sex life recently had been rather mediocre. He probably wanted to try something more exciting again. I patted the back of the driver's seat, indicating for the driver to get out of the car first. What do you want to play? Taming a pathological control freak like him back to normal had been going quite smoothly. It wouldn't be a bad idea to give him a little punishment. I counted on my fingers for him. 10,000 yuan in the car, 20,000 yuan in the elevator, 100,000 yuan on the top floor, and kissing is free. But you see, I asked, what about forever? I didn't understand. The level for forever. He was so eager. I secretly smiled in my heart. Of course, I was also quite eager. While he was asleep, I secretly measured his finger circumference. The customized Cartier couple rings should be almost finished. 2 million yuan. It was exactly the price of the couple rings. After hearing this, you see, I didn't say anything. I leaned over. How much is still lacking? 1,390,000 yuan. His voice was a bit dull, mixed with a little bit of. I pondered for a while, and the word attachment somehow emerged in my heart. It was so strange. Why did I have such a feeling? I tentatively put my arms around his neck and said softly, it will be very soon. At the current rate, it will reach the amount the month after next. 2 months was enough time for me to design and decorate the proposal venue. The hand around my back slowly tightened, moving along my spine towards the small of my back. He let out a deep hum in response. I was feeling dizzy from his touch and hinted again. Kissing is free. This time he understood. You see, I skillfully pinched my chin and kissed me. I had drunk a little at the gathering, from the sour gooseberries to the ripe red plums. This kiss gradually became more mellow, and we were reluctant to part, until the clear sound of the belt buckle rang out. You see, I froze in his tracks as if waking up from a dream. The intimacy came to an abrupt end, and for a moment, there were only the sounds of our heavy breathing in the dimly lit car. Sorry, I couldn't hold back. Now we were in an awkward situation where both of us were feeling uncomfortable. I rubbed against him. Keep going. It counts as my offer. I had indulged him enough. One more time wouldn't matter much. Right. My consciousness soon sank into the surging pleasure. 8. Another month passed, and you see, I had gotten used to the reward and evaluation mechanism between us. Occasionally, when I forgot to give him the money, he would even remind me actively. It was really cute. A person who manipulated tens of billions of assets every second would haggle over my few hundred yuan. He also secretly calculated it once a day, as if it were some kind of countdown ceremony. I couldn't help but want to fast forward and see what he would look like when I proposed to him. Would he cry? I had never seen I shed tears. He didn't cry when he was stabbed through the chest, nor did he cry when he saw the photos of his parents in the filthy gutter. He was as tense as a kite, on the verge of falling. My heart seemed to be tugged at by the kite string, and a trace of pain welled up. But when I sank into my thoughts and felt it carefully, it seemed to be just my illusion. I couldn't get to the point. After 4 consecutive hours of meetings, my shoulders and neck ached so much that I couldn't move. My assistant arranged a physiotherapy session. After the whole session, I got home much later than usual. You see, I was leaning against the sofa, wearing home clothes and focusing intently on the computer, hearing the sound of the door opening. He closed the screen and stood up. Do you want some supper? I've cooked some soup. The warm light in the room softened even his sharp side profile. I stared at him in a daze and, somehow, asked, aren't you going to ask me why I'm home late? He turned his head towards me while stirring the soup spoon. You sent me a message about it. I did send a message, but I only said that I was delayed by something and didn't mention what I was doing. I suppressed the strange feeling in my chest, nodded, and said, I'll take a shower first. It won't take long. Afraid that the soup would get cold, I started unbuttoning my shirt as I spoke, but halfway through, I suddenly stopped. The old master's hands were quite strong, and there were little red marks on my shoulders and the base of my neck, which were particularly noticeable on my fair skin. My scalp tightened, and I instinctively looked at UCI. He had obviously seen them too. There was no expression on his face. He just stared at my shoulders and then slowly moved his gaze to my face. My neck was uncomfortable, so I went for a massage. I stammered an explanation. It's hard to describe, but when I saw his reaction, I actually felt a sense of relief and, vaguely, some anticipation. I was expecting him to. Is it better now? Do you need me to help you take a shower? You see, I stood still, and I slowly lowered my hand, feeling at a loss for the first time. Much better. No need, I heard myself reply. After taking a shower, you see, I was already waiting for me with a hairdryer. I sat down and drank the warm soup while he dried my hair. The whole world was filled with the sound of the hairdryer and my swallowing, but for no reason. I felt it was a bit too quiet. Why wasn't he talking? Why wasn't he questioning me? Clearly, we were becoming more and more like a normal couple, but now I was a bit confused about what a normal couple should be like. You see, I turned off the hairdryer and placed his hands on my shoulders, with a moderate amount of pressure. I put down the soup bowl, turned around, and directly sat on his lap. Shall we do it? It's been a long time since we did it on the sofa, to be precise. You see, I hadn't taken the initiative for a long time. Every time, I would wriggle my way to his side and, with a thick face, get under the covers. He was only most enthusiastic about receiving money. You see's Adam's apple twitched, and he shook his head. Your neck is uncomfortable. Let's forget it today. What does my neck being uncomfortable have to do with my butt? I straightened up and started pulling down my pajama pants. If you're tired, just lie down. I can do it myself. My hand was pressed down with an irresistible force. Chindai, I still have some work to deal with. An indescribable emotion surged through my body. I stared at the man beneath me and said in a cold and firm tone, UCI, at this time, the A-share market is closed, and the U.S. stock market hasn't opened yet. What work do you have to do? UCI helped me put my pajama pants back on, leaned in, and kissed me. I do have some work. Let's do it tomorrow. His lips were soft, and my heart softened too. Kiss me again. UCI held my face and gave me a serious and deep kiss. You go to sleep first. Most of my resentment disappeared immediately. Okay, then you should go to bed early too. But he didn't come to the room all night. He quietly lifted the quilt beside me just before dawn, created some wrinkles, and then turned around and went into the kitchen. I opened my eyes, didn't expose his little deception, stared silently at his back as he made breakfast, and pressed the screen to send a message to my secretary. 9. My family has focused on the real industry for several generations and has rarely dabbled in finance. After paying a little attention, I found that it has indeed been quite turbulent recently. UCI holds a large number of shares, and it's difficult for such a huge ship to turn flexibly in the turbulent and narrow strait. So, was UC's abnormality due to too much work pressure? I can't remember such a thing happening in my previous life at all. UCI knew my whereabouts like the back of his hand, but he rarely talked about his own work. He always reported the good news and not the bad. Leaving aside those extreme and excessive coercive means, in a sense, he was more like a qualified partner than I was. The driver turned in the direction at the farthest point of the view visible from home and drove onto another road, finally stopping downstairs at the fund company where UCI worked. I don't understand anything about it, and I don't know if I can share his worries, but even a little bit would be good. Even if I can only help a little bit, it would be worth it. In this precious second life, I hope we can both feel more at ease and that we can be together for a longer time. UCI has resigned, didn't he tell you? The person in charge who received me looked extremely worried. To avoid causing panic among our entrusted clients, the news hasn't been disclosed yet, but the handover has been almost completed in the past 2 days. My ears were buzzing, and I couldn't hear anything. My secretary quickly reached out and supported me, preventing me from falling due to weak legs. Why was this happening? Why did he resign all of a sudden? In my previous life, this didn't happen in my previous life. A ridiculous and terrifying thought popped into my mind. Could it be that UCI was also reborn? It's hard not to associate it with his recent strangeness. He exuded an air of indifference, as if he didn't care about anything, just like... My mind went blank all of a sudden, just like that day. He was wearing a white shirt, sitting quietly at home waiting for me. After I left, he wordlessly jumped down from the window. My fingertips couldn't stop trembling, and I couldn't type a complete sentence no matter how hard I tried. I desperately adjusted my breathing and finally grabbed the driver's arm with a trembling hand. Hurry home. I stumbled up the stairs. I entered the password several times but it was incorrect. I took a deep breath, blinked away the tears in my eyes, held my right wrist tightly with my left hand, and pressed the numbers one by one. Halfway through, the door opened, the warm light from the living room spilled over me, and I stood there, not daring to move. UCI was standing barefoot in the hallway. He had probably been woken up by the continuous error messages of the password while taking a nap, and his eyes were still a bit hazy. When his gaze fell on my undisguised panic, he finally woke up completely, and his expression immediately became tense. What happened? I just stood there in a daze. He quickly glanced outside the door. There was no one else. He checked me thoroughly, front and back. I wasn't injured. Then he carefully supported my shoulders. What on earth is going on? My throat was choked up. I bit my lower lip to suppress the sobs, but I couldn't suppress the grievances that I had deliberately avoided for years. UCI. I was scalded by cigarette ash. 10. UCI was stunned for a moment, and his tense expression relaxed a little. Where were you scalded? He didn't notice that several tufts of his hair were sticking up after sleeping. He carefully examined my hands. When he couldn't find any marks, he squatted down. There were no marks on my suit pants either. There definitely wouldn't be any on my arms. But when I pointed at my fair and smooth skin and made up a story, saying it was here, UCI didn't ask a single question. He just squatted there, held my hand, and kissed my forearm. Does it still hurt? I shook my head blankly and then nodded blankly. Somehow, I blurted out, UCI, did it hurt you at that time? He looked up. At what time? Those people who kidnapped me, when we were running away. Chandai. UCI suddenly interrupted me, and his fingers tightened. Don't mention the past anymore. I wanted to say something more, but he had already stood up, bent down, and picked me up. You look really pale. Stay home and rest today. He put me on the bed and was about to leave when I immediately reached out and grabbed him. I'm going to pour a glass of hot water. I'll be back soon. I held on tightly and wouldn't let go. In a stalemate, UCI let out a barely audible sigh, lifted the quilt, and lay down beside me. He gently patted my back. Did you have a nightmare on the way here? It wasn't a nightmare, it was our real previous life. Actually, I never really wanted to break up with you. The movement on my back stopped, but I didn't notice it. The fear of losing UCI completely overwhelmed my mind. I tightly grabbed the corner of his clothes. Even though I knew he wasn't reborn and that he knew nothing, I still couldn't control myself from continuing to speak. Really, I just wanted you to be a bit more restrained because sometimes you were really going too far. But how could you be so heartless? Everyone was congratulating me, saying that I was finally free, only I knew I was trapped forever. My waist was tightly wrapped around, and I was pulled into his embrace. I know you didn't want to break up with me, and I know. Our chests were pressed together, and UC's voice vibrated, making my scalp tingle. You were trapped. The UCI in front of me clearly couldn't know what I was talking about. I looked up alertly, broke free from his embrace, and pressed him down beneath me with both hands. What are you talking about, UCI? Why did you resign? UCI avoided my gaze and answered irrelevantly, how much can you give me for this performance? I was stunned. It took me a long time to realize what he was talking about. What? Don't put the cart before the horse. Aren't you short of this little money? I'm short of the 2 million yuan you promised to give me. Something was wrong. I slowly widened my eyes, feeling as if I had fallen into an ice lake and couldn't stop falling. A cold suspicion gradually emerged. Our expectations for the chips were completely different. I was waiting for him to ask me to be with him forever, and then I would take out the ring I had already prepared and propose to him in return. But he was planning something else, something I absolutely didn't want to see happen. Clearly, our initial goals were the same. When did it start to change? No, I'm going to deduct some. I'm very angry that you resigned without asking me, I said, as I spoke. I picked up the phone he had placed on the bedside table, smoothly entered the top chat window, and my fingertips hovered over the screen, unable to move any further. I clearly saw that 4 words were added after my note, the last 30,000 yuan. It felt as if all the blood in my body had frozen. Stop making trouble. He snatched the phone away, and my palm suddenly felt empty. My heart felt empty too. I couldn't deceive myself. The meaning was already very clear with his attitude like this. He didn't want to be with me anymore. He wanted to use the chips to exchange for a way to leave. 11. Our confrontation was interrupted by a phone call. It was from my family, asking me to go back for a family dinner. Bring him too, my father added at the end. I looked at UCI. He had already stood up and was changing his clothes. Do you want to go? My family had always opposed my relationship with UCI. It was really unexpected that he was suddenly mentioned. What was even more unexpected was UC's attitude. He nodded and said, yes, I'll go. He had always resisted going to my home for all these years and even refused to talk about it, because he would remember the time when his family was destroyed at the age of 18. My father's methods of competing for the right of inheritance were quite dirty. After taking office, he removed potential threats, made drastic changes, and offended many people. Those people couldn't touch him, so they kidnapped me instead. It was a kidnapping aimed at revenge and they had no intention of letting me live. I was left in an abandoned factory for 3 days and was accidentally discovered by a couple who collected waste. They had been simple and honest all their lives and couldn't imagine all the complicated schemes. They thought I had strayed into their out of playfulness and called their only son to send me, who was too weak to speak, to the hospital. UCI at the age of 18 was thin, tall, and as tough as a bamboo. I lay on his back and fell asleep peacefully. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital suite. My father scolded me for being troublesome and causing him so much trouble. Later, his tone softened. That family doesn't have many relatives. If the kid can be saved, bring him to our home and arrange a job for him in the future. If he can't be saved, it's all fate. UCI tenaciously survived, transferred to the noble school where I was, and went to the same university as me. Many people said that when we were together, UCI was more like a young master. He always had an indifferent and nonchalant look, while I was always running around him. Only I knew that he had always been holding back a lot of pent-up emotions but had nowhere to release them. The villains had received their due punishment. The living people, although deeply guilty, were also so innocent. After accidentally discovering that he liked men, I finally found a breakthrough. I tried all kinds of ways to seduce him every day, but he remained unmoved. On my 19th birthday, I left the lively party behind and secretly slipped into his small room, taking off all my clothes. Those people who kidnapped me and killed your parents have all gone to hell. UCI, I can go to hell too. But before going to hell, Can you allow me to stay in the world and love you the most, only love you, I belong only to you, and you can use me as you like. After all, I shared the same blood as my father. Being able to speak of my despicable desires so grandiosely, after that night, I almost crawled into his bed every night. We became more and more in tune, more and more unrestrained. It wasn't a surprise when we were discovered, but in the face of my father's overwhelming anger, I instinctively backed down and hung my head in silence. You see, I was silent for a long time. When I was about to be punished by the family rules, he spoke up. I forced him to do it. He said, great kindness can be like a great enmity. Clearly, he saved my life, but my father started to resent his existence. It had been 9 years since he left the Chin family until he set foot in it again. 12. The atmosphere at the family dinner was stagnant when it ended. I was pestered by my father's second wife for a chat. She was really bad at pretending, and her purpose of wanting her son to take advantage was so obvious that I didn't even bother to expose it. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw UCI go upstairs. My heart tightened, and I immediately stood up. The people on both sides tried to stop me again, but I didn't care about maintaining any false dignity. I coldly pushed them away. The soft curses and sarcasm were left behind me, and all I could think about was UCI. Why did UCI take the initiative to go upstairs? The door of the study was slightly ajar. I calmed my breathing and raised my hand. You're really good at hiding your true abilities. My movement froze in midair. Through the crack in the door, a stack of papers was thrown onto the desk with a snap. UCI stood beside the desk and just glanced down at it. Your parents were really clever. They did this just before they died of illness, which actually brought you to the forefront, my father said. In the face of my father's overwhelming hatred, UCI just said calmly, they never thought that much. Fine, let's not talk about them, my father sneered. Let's talk about you, you ungrateful wretch. Shaddai has a soft heart. You've been binding him with a sense of guilt for all these years. You forced him to act shamelessly in public. Do you know how many people are laughing at him? How many more decades do you want to waste of his life? What nonsense, what on earth was he talking about? The door creaked open. When my father saw me, his face darkened, and he slapped the table hard. Just in time. Get in here and take a look. He was referring to the medical records of UC's parents, with a rather pessimistic outcome, perhaps due to lack of money. They didn't receive treatment. So what? What does this prove? The fact that they saved me can never be covered up. As for you, you're the one to blame, shifting blame one after another. Aren't you just trying to ease your conscience? No, you don't have a conscience at all, I sneered, imitating his tone. Also, there was never any forcing. I took the initiative from the beginning. I was the one who begged UCI to have sex with me, sticking my ass out. Shut up, have you no shame? He roared and interrupted me, his eyes bloodshot and red. You're bewitched. His palm was raised high and came straight down with a gust of wind, but it didn't land on my face. UCI grabbed my father's wrist and said calmly, let me talk to Chandai alone for a few words. As bold as I was in front of my father, I was that flustered at this moment. I didn't dare to listen. No, I tightly grasped the hem of his clothes. Let's go home first. Can we go home? UCI pried my fingers off one by one, his expression calm as he clicked on his phone. There was the sound of a transfer notification. My whole body trembled uncontrollably, and my vision went dark in waves. Don't say. UCI looked up at me and smiled for the first time in these days. His eyelashes were wet, but there was a sense of relief in his eyes that made me despair. Chandai, let's call it quits. Never see each other again. You're free. 13. UCI disappeared. Once again, everyone came to congratulate me, saying that I had finally gotten rid of that ungrateful wretch who took advantage of his kindness. Terrible. If such a person develops further, he'll definitely be violent at home. I wanted to say something when he disrupted the blind date, but my family's assets were in his hands, and I was afraid of being retaliated against by him. He's probably already been violent at home. I met Chandai at several banquets, and his wrists were red, as if they had been tied. That's probably why he often wears high-collared clothes. So, we shouldn't have let such a low-class person rise in the first place. It would have been better to send him away with some money. The Chin family is still too soft-hearted. Phew. Fortunately, he's completely out. Although he's quite capable, I really wouldn't feel at ease entrusting the family business to him. We owe this to young Master Su. Amid the buzzing and chaotic voices like flies, I heard the name of my childhood friend. I looked up and stared straight at him. He dodged my gaze for a moment, then said nonchalantly, "Hey, I didn't know before. If I had known that Xiaodai was living like this, I would have intervened earlier." I coldly twitched the corner of my mouth. "What kind of intervention do I need from you?" He was stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, I interrupted him, "And you all? What's going on between me and you? CI has nothing to do with you, right?" Everyone looked at each other, and their tone took on a bit of resentment. "Aren't we doing this for your own good? We've been friends since childhood. We can't just watch you be pooed by someone like him for a lifetime, can we?" "Someone like him?" I leaned back and stared at the drip of the 4 bottle, sneering. "Isn't it jealousy? The person who came out of nowhere easily stepped on those who received elite education since childhood. You must have been scolded a lot usually, right?" The resentment immediately escalated into accusations of being ungrateful. I just felt it was noisy. Why did everyone think I was being forced? My indulgence had always been my own willing choice. The question I couldn't figure out over a cigarette at that time had long been understood in the long years that followed. The reason for my indulgence was simple: because I loved him. I loved you, CI, so I was willing, but I was never a person good at expressing myself. Things that I couldn't even figure out myself probably couldn't be conveyed well to the other party either. In this life, I had tried my best to make my love tangible, but still, it backfired. But at least, he was still alive. I clenched my palm. The indwelling needle on the back of my hand pricked the blood vessel, and it hurt a bit. I got sick because of him. He had to be responsible for me. 14. UC's perspective. I've always been unable to tell what feelings Chandai has for me. He said he loved me, but when I actually pinned him down, he secretly buried his face in the pillow and cried. He said he hated me. After that, he blushed and consciously picked up the shackles to make it easier for me to come and go. Our relationship started with his words, "Please hold me," and ended with the freedom I gave him. 10 years of entanglement was enough. He probably didn't even notice that he would occasionally show a faint sense of tiredness. He would quickly hide it again and continue to curse while catering to me. He was clearly already tired but was still struggling to hold on. I didn't understand what made him persist. When I accidentally discovered that he had someone renovate my parents' graves, I found the answer. It was guilt. Even though I had deliberately avoided it over the years and didn't even let him see the scar, but the fact that my parents died in revenge and the knife wound I got while standing in front of him still became a gap in his heart that he could never cross. After a long stalemate, when I saw him secretly going on a blind date, I felt relieved. He had finally figured it out, but I had to keep up the act, playing a paranoid and crazy debt collector who pestered him like a ghost. When Chandai was carried home by me, he was really shaking with anger and said he never wanted to see me again without thinking. I still retorted viciously, but my heart was so sour that it swelled. "So good, you're leaving." But in the blink of an eye, when I lowered my head to fasten a chain, he changed. He looked at me in a condescending and provocative way, but his eyes betrayed him. They were shaking like a wet butterfly. Something was different. He no longer catered me meekly but hugged me tightly and responded extremely passionately, so passionately that I lost all my senses. When I felt him touching the scar on my back, I didn't even have time to stop him. I just wanted to nail him to the bed. I liked the reward and evaluation mechanism he proposed. It gave me hope for our relationship. I could keep track of all his movements. I knew he had customized a ring and was preparing to propose. He wanted to spend his life with me. On one hand, I pretended not to know and cooperated. On the other hand, I had some secret expectations. Until that alumni reunion, he felt indebted to me. He wanted to make up for me for a lifetime. I should have known earlier. What was I hoping? Did I really expect him to love me? He was already very tired. Many, many times in his nightmares, he would grab me and unconsciously shed tears and whimper, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," over and over again. He had nothing to be sorry for me. I couldn't bind him with guilt and shame. I went to a small town and became an ordinary trader in a securities company. Life was as plain as water. This was the kind of life I should have lived. The mistake that started at the age of 18 had finally ended, and my life was back on track. But one night, I had a very strange dream. Everyone says you can't see your own face in a dream, but in that dream, I clearly saw it. It was a complete mess. He didn't speak, but the voice came to my ears from all directions. "You know, after becoming a ghost, you can't protect him anymore. You can only watch helplessly as he falls into a pool of blood and can do nothing. He has never loved anyone else. He only loves you." That bright red was too dazzling. I didn't dare not to believe it. I deliberately released a little news. The next day after work, I saw Chandai in my small rental room. He was leaning against my bedside, with a cigarette burning between his fingertips. "I'm sick," he said. He looked quite healthy, but I was still a bit nervous and walked over to pinch his arm. "What's wrong?" The next second, I was pressed onto the bed. There was a cold touch on my wrist. It was a thin gold chain, and the other end was cuffed to the bedside. He leaned down, and the hot cigarette ash fell beside my ear. "You see, A cold and hard ring was forcefully put on my ring finger, fitting perfectly. It wasn't the 2 million yuan one. This one was very simple, a Mobius strip, the same as the one he was wearing. "You can't escape. I want you to stay by my side forever." Story 2. I was reborn on the day I confessed to my childhood friend. Amidst the cheering crowd, he looked at me with my eyes red from crying and coldly asked, "Lin Yueya, do you find it amusing to seek attention like this?" Then he turned gently towards the girl next to him. "Just wait for me a moment. I'll come to find you after dealing with this." He impatiently lectured me. "Why do you cry so much? Shouldn't you spend more time reading books instead of daydreaming about love and romance?" I was so annoyed, I pushed him away and threw myself into the arms of the school bully who was watching the commotion from behind him. "Honey," I held the person in my arms, crying uncontrollably. Chi Chen, at 18, was still alive. Everything was still possible. 01. Before Chi Chen died, he made me promise to live to 100 before joining him. I agreed, then immediately broke that promise. I ended up dying 3 days later. Before closing my eyes, I made up an excuse for myself. When I saw him, I would say I dreamed of him flirting with other female ghosts. The truth is, I didn't dream at all. Without him, I couldn't even sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at 18, holding flowers, surrounded by a chorus of cheers. "Confess, confess." The crowd was overwhelming, but my eyes instantly found that conspicuous blonde hair. He stood in an unnoticed corner, his gaze casually yet deliberately sweeping over me. I looked at him, and tears instantly started flowing uncontrollably. Just as I was about to speak, Xing Yi's voice intervened. "Lin Yueya, do you find it amusing to seek attention like this?" In a daze, I only then noticed the person in front of me. His brows were slightly furrowed, his expression cold. The lively atmosphere paused for a moment, until Su Xing broke the awkward silence. "Shani, we need to confirm your award speech." Shani turned his head towards her. "Just wait for me a moment. I'll come to find you after dealing with this." His tone unusually gentle. Su Xing, like Shani, was a top student. People joked that the two scholars were a match made in heaven. Su Xing, however, disdainfully retorted, "I'm not one of those girls who only think about love." At that moment, Xing Yi's look towards her held rare admiration. He had once told me the same thing, that he didn't like girls whose heads were filled only with thoughts of love, but back then, my mind was filled only with him, even foolishly imagining that confessing to him on my birthday wouldn't embarrass me. Later I realized, he hated being morally blackmailed by me. Just like this moment, he took the flowers from my hands, clearly impatient. "Shouldn't you spend more time reading books instead of daydreaming about love and romance?" 02. I was stunned. Whispers arose from the crowd. "Look. Lin Yueya is crying. She's been fawning over Shani for so many years, and now she's become a laughingstock. I feel embarrassed for her. In my previous life, indeed, I had cried embarrassingly, but at this moment, all I saw was the blonde in the corner. I stared straight at him, my mouth opening slightly, trembling, unable to speak. Tears just kept flowing. Seeing me like this, Shani frowned and sighed. "Lin Yueya, why do you cry so much?" I was so annoyed. He kept talking, blocking my view. I pushed Shani away forcefully and dashed, throwing myself onto the person I had regained. Husband, you're still alive. That's wonderful." Sob, sob, sob. The warmth of his chest, that familiar scent of sunlight. I held him, crying uncontrollably. The person in my arms stiffened. "It's not sister, you've got the wrong person." My face turned red up to my ears. "Lin Yueya, who are you calling husband?" Xing Yi's voice came from behind, tinged with anger. "How many times are you going to use the same trick?" Indeed, in my past life, I used to get close to other guys just to make Shani jealous. He would get angry, but he would also console me casually. However, this time, the person involved was a small-time delinquent he despised the most. Holding Chi Chen, my crying grew more intense. Sob, sob, sob. "Husband, you really are still alive." I couldn't believe it. My hands fumbling under his clothes, frantically checking for the fatal wound he had in his previous life. Chi Chen was quite startled by my actions. "What the hell are you doing?" I choked up. "Take off your clothes, let me see." His face instantly turned red. I'm a decent person. My crying worsened. Sob sob sob. Husband, I need to see. Please let me see. His hands hung awkwardly. Finally, in a low voice, he relented. Shoo, wait. Let's wait until there's no one around. Okay. Watching this scene, Shani looked disgusted. Lin Yueya. Don't you feel embarrassed doing this in public? This time, I'm not going to console you. He turned and walked away. The crowd also dispersed unhappily. Miss, the show's over. Aren't you going to let go? The voice above me carried a hint of mockery. I just shook my head, continuing to sob as I clung to his neck. I won't let go. Not in this lifetime. 18-year-old Lin Yueya had no broken legs, no depression. 18-year-old Qi Chen hadn't yet taken a knife for her. There was still time. Qi Chen, in disbelief, threatened me. Can I go then? He carried me out of the classroom. Just as we exited, the voice of the disciplinary director reached us. Hey, Qi Chen, aren't you supposed to be training instead of fooling around with a female classmate? I still clung to him tightly. Seeing my indifference, Qi Chen blushed and explained. Report to the teacher. The female student has broken her leg. I'm taking her to the infirmary. The director's tone softened somewhat. You lad. You're quite compassionate. Suddenly, I remembered, Qi Chen in the past was just like this, carrying me around the world to see legs, accompanying me during rehabilitation training. Once everyone had left, he looked at me, somewhat exasperated. Seriously, Miss Lin, what are you playing at? I held on to his neck and wouldn't let go. Husband, he felt his scalp tingle, biting his teeth. Don't call me husband. Who's your husband? You are, my dear husband, I pouted, feeling wronged. I love my dear husband the most. His head was about to explode. He sternly reminded me, Miss, do you remember who threw away my love letter yesterday? I felt awkward. The timing was really off. Qi Chen had confessed his feelings to me, but I had ruthlessly trampled his love letter underfoot. I hate guys like you the most, physically strong but simple-minded athletes. Speaking of which, I was also a dancer. Physically flexible but simple-minded. Actually, I didn't really hate Qi Chen. It was because Shani disliked him that I followed suit. He hated all fools, especially someone like Qi Chen who performed poorly in academics and was domineering at school. I blinked. She explained with a face full of sincerity. Actually, yesterday was a test for you, and she promised, honey, from now on, I'll only love you. Qi Chen's mouth twitched slightly. Could you not call me honey? I shook my head. No, I can't. He clenched his teeth and resigned himself to fate. Fine. Call me whatever you want. As he looked at me clinging to him like a koala, he sighed. But Lin Yueya, you're a person, not a monkey. Can you get off me? But I want to hug you a little longer, honey. He swallowed hard. His ears turned red. 18-year-old Qi Chen was really adorably fierce. 05. Qi Chen then carried me to his uncle's house. The old man was known in the neighborhood for his spiritual dealings, always mumbling about something daily. Uncle, she seems to be possessed. His uncle, stroking his beard, glanced at me. Ah, her eyes are bloodshot, definitely touched by something. Saying so, he pulled out a yellow talisman. Place this talisman on her body to ward off evil spirits. Qi Chen set me outside the house and instructed me, wait here for me, don't follow, I'll be right back. I didn't listen to him. I stealthily followed to the door. I only heard him quietly ask, Uncle, is there a talisman that can make her stay bewitched forever? I was secretly thrilled. Little guy, you've already fallen head over heels for me, smashing headfirst into walls for me. Qi Chen, this lifetime. It's my turn to run towards you. 06. I lived with the Shen family. Our families were old friends and had arranged a marriage alliance since we were young. When I was 10, my parents died in an accident, and Shani tightly held my hand. Xiaoyi, you still have me. I'll always be by your side. I moved into the Shen household, and his parents treated me very well. As a child, I practiced dance, and his mother hired the best teachers for me. The wardrobe was full of beautiful clothes bought by Aunt Shen, but no matter how good, I was not their child. They initially saw me as their future daughter-in-law. After my leg was broken and I couldn't walk properly, they felt such a daughter-in-law wouldn't be presentable, and told me, Xiaoyi, we've always cherished you as our own daughter, and Xiaoyi sees you as his sister. Don't worry, we'll find a good husband for you. At the dinner table, Mr. and Mrs. Shen served me food, asking about my studies. Remembering what they said in my past life, it all seemed somewhat laughable. I put down my chopsticks. Uncle, Auntie, I want to move into the school dormitory. It will help me focus on my studies more, and you know my academic performance isn't that good. they were somewhat surprised. How can you stay in such a poor dorm environment? Xiaoyi, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Xiaoyi is good at studies, let him tutor you. I calmly shook my head. No, he's busy with competitions. I don't want to disturb him. Aunt Shen seemed to sense something. Did you two have a fight? Shani remained silent. I just smiled. No, he treats me very well, and I've always regarded Shani as my own brother. In the future, he will surely find a daughter-in-law as outstanding as himself for you both. Shani paused, looking at me. He glanced at me. I wasn't feeling hungry, so I went to the bedroom. However, lying in bed, the familiar sensation of insomnia struck me as it had in the past. Back then, my depression was severe, and I relied on sleeping pills to sleep each night. It wasn't until I got together with Chichen that I began to heal slowly. People with insomnia are always anxious and irritable. I decided to get up and went to the living room to pour myself a glass of water. Unexpectedly, I ran into Shani. Have something to eat. You barely touched your dinner, he said. He was holding a bowl of chicken soup dumplings, my favorite, and placed it in front of me. Are you still angry about what happened earlier today? He asked, squatting in front of me and sighing helplessly. I'm just upset that you're in your senior year and not focusing on your studies. Seeing that I remained silent, he gently rubbed my head. Come on, don't be mad, okay, he said with a helpless chuckle. Silly girl, that's always his way, offering gentle words after I've been wronged. I always end up forgiving him, lying to myself that he cares for me because he does seemingly thoughtful little things for me. Ignoring him, he stroked my hair again, his tone indulgent. Do you think our kids will be as silly as you? He teased, a line he had used in our past life. Back then, I was deeply moved, thinking he had envisioned a future with me. Little did I know, it was just a comment made by a teacher after he and Su Xing won a prize, saying, if these two ever got together, their children would be so intelligent. He wasn't thinking of marrying and having children with me. He was worried that being with me might affect the intelligence of his future offspring. I forced a smile and looked at him. Don't worry, we won't be having children. Shani exhaled and frowned. Lin Yueya, I'm busy too. I don't have time to cater to your whims. I smiled calmly. Not anymore. Shani stopped trying to comfort me and went back to his room. With dark circles under my eyes, I went to Chi Chen's place. His parents had divorced, and he lived alone in a house near the school. As soon as he opened the door, I rushed into his arms, familiar with the place. Honey, I want to sleep with you. You, what? He was shocked, his hands in the air, unsure what to do. No, Lin Yueya, I seriously don't offer that kind of service. I can't sleep without you. I clung to him tightly, my voice filled with sobs and exhaustion. Honey, I really need to sleep. He cursed under his breath, muttering, sleep, sleep, sleep. I managed to get into his bedroom. Just as I lay down on his bed, he grabbed a pillow and ran towards the living room. I quickly grabbed his hand. Where are you going? To sleep on the couch? No, let's sleep together. I held on to his hand desperately. I can't sleep without you by my side. Honey, in my past life, Chi-Chen was like my safe harbor. Having him by my side always gives me a sense of comfort and security when I sleep. I was crying and clutching onto him, refusing to let go. He was frustrated and just lay stiffly on the bed. Fine, let's sleep then. It's not me who's losing out anyway, let me tell you, a scoundrel like me can do anything, he said fiercely, yet, he blushed, turned his head away, and kept his distance from me. I happily moved closer and hugged him from behind. My hands instinctively started wandering down. He grabbed the blanket and sat up in alarm. Lin Yueya, where are you touching? I replied with a pitiful look. Holding it gives me a sense of security. Sure, you feel secure, but what about me? He protected himself tightly, like a man of staunch virtue. Sometimes, I really feel like calling the police on myself. You know you love it when I hug you to sleep naked. He was incredulous. What? When did I ever enjoy sleeping naked? After we got together, after we got married. Chi-Chen fell in love with sleeping naked and even insisted I join him. He claimed it was more comfortable to have skin-to-skin contact, though unspoken. It really was comfortable. Chi-Chen stared at me, full of confusion. Lin Yueya, are you possessed by a demon that needs to absorb a man's yang energy to survive? Then would you let me absorb it? His face instantly turned bright red as he sternly refused me. Don't even think about it, I'll have you know. I was a good student, and I certainly didn't engage in puppy love, but I really can't sleep without holding you. I pouted. Honey, a struggle flashed in his eyes. Well, just holding, nothing else. Is that okay? He was exasperated yet helpless. Fine, I'm begging you. I was 25 when I got together with Chi-Chen. Who would have known that the flirtatious and frivolous Chi-Chen was so innocent at 18? He was utterly lovable at that age, pure yet capable, every wealthy woman's dream. It's hard to resist. Can I just take a look? Then, 18 years old, such tender and pinkish age, harder than a diamond. What are you looking at? He looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, his ears red and his eyes panicked. Lin Yueya, are you still a girl? Ah, he doesn't understand. At 28, I'm at an age as fierce as a tiger. I bit my lip in a pretend sulk. Honey, even if you called me daddy, it wouldn't help. He wrapped me tightly in a blanket, pinning me from the outside. Go to sleep, and from now on, don't call me honey. I nodded. Okay, honey. He sighed. No, I mean, okay Chi-Chen. The familiar scent, the familiar heartbeat. My baby is back. Looking at the 18-year-old him, I softly began. Chi-Chen, I'm not possessed. Actually, I come from 10 years in the future. I am the 28-year-old Lin Yueya. Heh, why don't you say you're a fairy descended from heaven, really? I truly come from 10 years in the future. He nodded dismissively. Alright, you say you're from Mars, and I'd believe that too. You don't believe me, huh? I looked down at him briefly. You have a mole there. He shuddered violently, his face full of shock. Holy shit, Lin Yueya, when did you sneak a peek? I replied, 7 years later. He paused to process this. So you really traveled here from 10 years in the future. Unable to curb his curiosity, he asked again, so, did I win the world championship in 10 years? Of course. You won the world championship at 22 and achieved a grand slam at 25. No one in the world could outswim you. Holy shit, am I that awesome? He was a bit excited and asked further, what about you then? Did you become a famous dancer? I lowered my head slightly. Of course. Did we get married? His voice carried a hint of caution and nervousness. Yes, we've been together since high school graduation. You proposed to me in front of the whole world after winning the world championship at 22. His eyes brightened as he asked, do we have children? I nodded with a smile. Yes, after each of us reached the pinnacle in our fields. You retired at 28, and I gradually shifted my focus from the stage to lecturing. That year, we had our child. I struggled to suppress the sourness in my nose. The year he won the world championship, he never proposed to me. I lived my life in a daze, making a mess of it. At 25, Lin Yueya was pulled from the abyss by Chi-Chen, but she dragged him into darkness. Fortunately, at 18, there was still time for everything. I woke up feeling refreshed. Chi-Chen had gone to train early. He had been practicing swimming since he was 7 or 8 years old, maintaining a daily regimen for over a decade, each day pushing his body to the limit. The hardship was incomparable to any academic endeavor. When I arrived at the classroom, I ran into the class teacher. Good, Yueya, you're here. The graduation gala is coming up soon. How's the rehearsal going? I was startled, a bit slow to respond. My classmate quickly answered for me. Teacher, Yueya dances superbly, and the rehearsal effects she's created are fantastic. With Xinyi's piano solo added in, it will surely be stunning. Our class will definitely win. Good, then make sure to practice well. I then remembered that the graduation gala was approaching. All the girls in the class were preparing a group dance. The teacher had given a rare moment of relaxation. Everyone was practicing in the dance studio. The plan was for all the girls to perform a classical dance, with Xinyi accompanying on piano and vocals on the side. Xinyi had always been excellent at piano, and his tone was lovely too. I really wanted our group to earn this honor, and after much pleading, he agreed. But at that moment, in the rehearsal room, Su Xing arrived late. A classmate couldn't help but mock. Su, the great scholar, always making everyone wait for you. Can't you be a bit more mindful of the group? Su Xing remained composed. Sorry, the principal just called me to have Xinyi and me speak as outstanding representatives at the gala. Her voice was neither high nor low, yet it carried an air of superiority. Someone muttered under their breath, showing off. What for? As Su Xing joined the group, I continued the rehearsal. Alright, let's review yesterday's moves. Then go through it all with Xinyi. Everyone danced well, except Su Xing, who again missed the rhythm. Complaints grew louder. Hey, Su Xing, what's going on? You didn't master the moves yesterday. You said you'd practice at home. How come you still can't keep up today? Right, can you not hold us back? Aren't you quick at learning everything? How can you not get this simple move? The comments flew back and forth. Su Xing's face flashed with annoyance, and she retorted coldly, why should a minor graduation event take up my study time, before criticizing others? Perhaps you should look at your own grades. How can you afford to waste your youth here? What's the point of this dance? Will it add points to your college entrance exam? I couldn't hold back my anger. Su Xing, it was you who arrived late and didn't practice properly. Why are you shifting the blame onto others? She laughed softly. Lin Yueya, it was clearly you who wanted to stand out. Why drag others into being your foil? Someone couldn't stand it anymore. This is a collective honor. How did it become Yueya trying to stand out? She's a dance student. Should she not lead the dance and let someone who can barely coordinate do it instead? At this, everyone burst into laughter. Su Xing's face turned slightly uncomfortable, and she disdainfully spat out, I can't be bothered to compete with you guys, it's utterly pointless. With that statement, she managed to irritate everyone. Speaking of which, Su Xing wasn't exactly popular in the class, she once coldly stated. I don't like hanging out with girls, they are too petty, and I'm not like them. She was indeed different from us. While everyone else was secretly reading frivolous romance novels, she would be engrossed in a collection of Tagore's poetry, all in English. When the teacher asked her to share her solution to a problem, she wrote a bunch of complex formulas and said, this is calculus, something you learn in university. Probably only Shani could understand it. Many girls in the class thought she was just showing off, but Shani thought of her as a kindred spirit. He even believed that I was leading the class in ostracizing and bullying Su Xing. Shani defended her. And she simply said, forget it, no point arguing with fools. That only made Shani admire her more. Some people said that Shani, a top student, liked girls who could match his intellect. They talked about intellectual love. In his eyes, I was just a simple-minded art student. I didn't care and clapped my hands. If that's the case, Su Xing, then you might as well not dance. Staring at her, I hooked up a mocking smile. After all, your dancing is really quite funny. That caused another burst of laughter. She was so angry she couldn't speak. Shani couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Yueya, why do you have to speak so unpleasantly? Does it sound unpleasant? I scoffed coldly, but in a previous life, after I broke my leg, she spoke to me in that exact tone. Lin Yueya, the way you walk is really quite funny. I was just mimicking her, and she didn't have a broken leg. Anger flashed through Xinyi's eyes. Are you all endlessly bullying Su Xing? He stood in front of Su Xing and declared, I'm telling you, if she quits, I quit too. Su Xing was moved to tears. Xinyi, I smiled indifferently. That's great. In a previous life, Su Xing didn't want me to stand out and deliberately fell at Xinyi's feet during a performance. Xinyi instinctively helped her. The accompanying music stopped abruptly. The whole show fell into an awkward silence. Everyone panicked and couldn't find the rhythm, resulting in a chaotic performance. But Xinyi's instinctive action to save Su Xing was praised. Both were top students and favorites of the teachers. The teacher said friendship first, competition second. Xinyi's action was the most worthy of emulation, and they even received a special award. During the award, Su Xing intentionally waved at me. Yueya, could you please take a photo for us? The whole audience gave them a warm round of applause. She and Xinyi smiled brilliantly. While the girls in the class felt so aggrieved they cried backstage. After Xinyi and Su Xing dropped out, everyone struggled without their singing. Yueya, if it's too hard, we might as well just play the background music, someone suggested helplessly. I waved my hand. Don't worry, someone can fill in. Back when I was severely depressed, Chi-Chen often held me in his arms and sang in my ear. His singing was truly captivating. After my leg healed, she encouraged me to return to dancing and step back onto the stage. As I danced, he would play the piano for me on the side. I immediately pulled out my phone and called him. Chi-Chen, our program needs you for a piano solo and to sing. He didn't even think about it. I can't do it. I played my trump card. Darling, darling, darling. Shut up, darling. Oh no, I meant, I'm on my way. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Seeing his reaction, he was almost like Pavlov's dog, reluctantly and swiftly. Chi-Chen came. Xinyi and Su Xing couldn't believe it. How could Chi-Chen replace you in the performance? Xinyi scoffed disdainfully. What good music can a sports student play? In his eyes, whether arts or sports, students in these fields were considered underachievers. However, their skepticism didn't dampen our enthusiasm. When the evening event began, and the lights brightened, I led all the girls in a graceful dance. And the soothing piano tones coupled with his deep voice slowly filled the air. Everyone was astounded. Below the stage, there was thunderous applause and cheers. The girls in our class are stunningly beautiful. Vocal Queen Chi, what other surprises do you have that we don't know about? Sports rep, why bother swimming? just debut as an artist. After the performance, Chichin came over to me, slightly proud. Well, did I embarrass you? Looking at him, my eyes nearly sparkled with adoration. Darling, you were the best. He lifted his head proudly. Of course, our program was a tremendous success and unsurprisingly, we won first place. Chichin and I went on stage to accept the award as representatives. The principal looked relieved. I had no idea our students were so talented. In the past, we always chose academically excellent students to represent us. But we aim for holistic development in morals, intelligence, physique, and aesthetics. I believe that in the future, our students will shine in various fields. Thus, Lin Yueya and Chichin, you two as outstanding representatives, please make a speech. We were somewhat taken aback. Scanning the audience, Su Xing clenched the prepared speech tightly, a look of resentment on his face. Xing Yi's gaze fell on us, his expression complex. Standing on the stage, I took a deep breath. Hello everyone, I am Lin Yueya. My mother was an outstanding classical dancer, and under her influence, I started dancing at the age of 7. From the initial basic training, countless falls and rises, I have never once thought of giving up. Dancing has taught me not only grace but resilience and perseverance, and an undying pursuit of my dreams. My dream is to attend the Beijing Dance Academy and to win the Peach and Plum Cup. Chichin then stepped forward, his tall figure especially imposing. Hello, I am Chichin, a sports student who loves swimming. From the fear and despair of almost drowning at 8 years old to being as natural as a fish in the water at 18, the daily training has been a dual test of my body and will. Failure, pain, and doubt have not made me give up. Because I have a dream. He paused, his gaze becoming exceptionally firm. My dream is to attend the Beijing Sport University and to be an Olympic champion. The applause from below was thunderous. At 18, those dreams of regret would finally be fulfilled. After receiving the award, the girls from our class swarmed around, taking photos with the trophy. Let's get someone to take a big group photo for us, someone suggested. I smiled and waved at Su Xing. Su Xing, could you take a photo for us? After all, you're the only one not in it. Su Xing, holding back his anger, lifted his phone. Chichin strode up to Shani, handed him the phone with a smug smile. Class rep, could you take a photo of me and my wife? Shani took the phone with a stern face. Chichin showed me the photo. Is it okay? Me? It's mediocre. Chichin, unabashedly pleased. Then let's trouble the class rep again. My wife isn't quite satisfied. Finally, Shani couldn't hold back anymore and shouted at Chichin. Chichin, who do you think you are? He wrapped his arm around me, his smile exceptionally brilliant. Me, I'm Lin Yueya's husband. Xing Yi's face turned ashen. His teeth clenched as he looked at him. You, a mere athlete and a delinquent, think you're worthy of Xiao Yi, an Olympic champion? That's a dreamer's talk. I stepped forward, looking at Shani. I scoffed. Chichin, if I remember correctly, you ranked 25th in the province in the recent mock exam. Do you know Chichin's recent competition results? 2nd in the province, 5th nationwide. You're the one who's failing, so what gives you the right to look down on others? I tugged at Chichin's sleeve and turned to leave with him side by side. Send me the photo. I want it as my screensaver. Hold on, I need a beauty filter. How can you, a big man, be paler than me? That's from the bleaching powder in the swimming pool. After school, I was walking home with Shani, but he stopped me halfway. I was annoyed. What now? He explained. Aren't you preparing for the Beijing Dance Academy exam? Let's go home. I'll help you with your academic subjects. I don't need it. He used to help me with my studies and always got impatient. He couldn't understand why I couldn't grasp such simple questions. Every tutoring session was torture for him. It was my fault about the school event. I apologize. He lowered his tone, unusually gentle. Can you stop being mad? I chuckled. Shani, I've never been mad at you. I don't need you to worry about my studies. If you're that bored, go discuss poetry, songs, or philosophy of life with Su Xing. Xiao Yi. I don't like Su Xing, he hurriedly explained and promised me. I'll apply to universities in Beijing for the college entrance exam, and we'll be together after graduation. I promise. I frowned, piercing through his lie. But didn't you and Su Xing just apply to the same foreign universities? Xiao Yi, I was just trying it out. I didn't really plan to go abroad. I found it utterly laughable. In my past life, he also promised to go to Beijing with me, until the day of my arts exam. Su Xing deliberately told me. Shani asked me where I wanted to go for university, and I said I wanted to study abroad, so he applied to the same school with me. He didn't tell you, did he? She stood there with her nose in the air, her face full of disdain. Lin Yueya, how long are you going to cling to him? He clearly doesn't like you. In the whole world, only Shani is worthy of me, and only I am worthy of him. That time, due to Su Xing's provocation, I failed to get into the school I longed for. When confronted by my questions, Shani casually explained that studying abroad had better advantages, and that he didn't like Su Xing. He acknowledged our relationship, granting me the status of his girlfriend. He told me to just wait a few years for him to graduate, and then we would get married. I believed him, but when he graduated, he said he needed to focus on his career first. He started a business with Su Xing, and they caught the industry's boom, their careers taking off rapidly. During those years, I danced in a dance troupe, neither particularly successful nor a failure. My teacher always said I had great potential, but my performances lacked emotion. Shani and Su Xing became the media's golden boy and golden girl, a perfect match in every way. The marriage he promised me was postponed again and again. As the college entrance exam was drawing near, I saw on the calendar, since Shani was going abroad soon, I wouldn't keep chasing after him. In Chi-Chen's small house, we two academic underachievers frantically memorized our textbooks. Who signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki? It wasn't me who signed it. I know it wasn't you. There is a fish in the North Ming and its name is Kuan. The Kuan is so big, too big to be stewed in one pot. Tired of studying, want something to eat. Sure. After a long night of hard work, the knowledge just wouldn't stick. The next morning, as Chi-Chen and I were leaving the house, we unexpectedly ran into Shani. His parents were with him. Their faces were stern, showing shock and anger. Shani was the first to confront me. Xiaoyi, you haven't been staying in the school dormitory at all. Have you been staying at his house these past few days? I didn't deny it. Yeah. Hearing this, his parents' faces changed dramatically. Xiaoyi, you're a decent girl. How can you shamelessly live with a hoodlum? We've always treated you like our own daughter, raised you like a little princess, and you've chosen to debase yourself by living with a thug. Get back home immediately. I stood there quietly, listening to their mocking words. Then I pulled a wry smile and calmly said, Uncle, Auntie, I am grateful for all the care you've given me over the years, but I am an adult now and can walk my own path. You've indeed spent quite a bit on raising me, but the assets left by my deceased parents, which you've managed on my behalf, have surely generated profits far exceeding the cost of raising me. I won't ask for it back. Consider it a thanks for your kindness, but from now on, please don't trouble yourselves. I'll have a lawyer handle the transfer. Hearing this, they were instantly enraged. Lin Yueya, do you think we raised you for your family's money? Indeed, one can never truly be one of us if not born into the family. After so many years, we've raised an ingrate. You're not smart, but we never despised you and always saw you as a future daughter-in-law. But how did you repay us? Is this how you honor your parents who are watching from below? Scenes from the past flashed through my mind. I once naively believed their words, struggling painfully amidst their indifference. But in this life, I will no longer let myself be manipulated. Ha, you treated me as your own daughter, saw me as a future daughter-in-law. In my previous life, everyone was sweet on Shani and Su Xing. No one knew about me, the actual girlfriend. I couldn't stand it and revealed my relationship with Shani online. Enraged, Shin's parents confronted me. Lin Yueya, do you realize this could ruin Shinyi's image? Will it affect his career? He already gave you the status of a girlfriend, and we have accepted you too. What more do you want? Day after day, doing nothing but being jealous. Look at Su Xing, how outstanding he is. When interviewed by the media, they said, Little Yi is like our own daughter because she has been close with our son since they were kids, and her parents passed away early. We took her in out of pity, and she has always been attached to her brother. Suddenly, my name was all over the gossip news. Childhood marriage arrangements. What era are we living in now? What's with this arranged marriage? They adopted her, and she repays kindness with ingratitude. Truly an ungrateful person, clearly. The Starlight Brilliance duo are a campus couple, and this sinister stepsister just had to interfere. I heard she was a bully in school, always picking on Su Xing. She must be desperate for fame. I heard she's some unknown dancer. Dancing. Is it some kind of provocative dance? It seemed certain that she had undergone some enhancements. She was completely overshadowed by Su Xing's icy goddess demeanor. During that period, I was doxxed, cyberbullied, and abandoned by the world. All thanks to them. So, this time, I was determined not to make the same mistakes. Lin Yueya, if you regret this later, don't come crying back to us. Aunt Shin spat out venomously, as if she had already foreseen my miserable future. Shani stood by, surprised by my words and actions, and angrily questioned me. Yuaya, how can you speak to my parents like that? Don't you have a conscience? I smirked coldly, displaying an indifferent smile. No, I'm the ungrateful wretch. Please just leave me alone. Shinyi's parents, dragging him along, advised him, son, once we get home, don't get involved with her again. I stood there quietly for a long time, so long that I didn't even realize when Shinyi suddenly hugged me. He asked softly, Lin Yuaya, did you lie to me? Was your previous life unhappy? My eyelids trembled slightly, and my nose felt sour. Actually, we didn't get together right after graduating high school. I chased after Shani for many years and ended up deeply hurt. At 25, my depression was so severe that I attempted suicide and accidentally fell off the stage. That's when you appeared. You said, Lin Yuaya, I'm now a world champion. I'll clear your name, marry me, and I will make you the happiest person in the world. Infuriating that despicable couple. On the day we registered our marriage, you announced in front of the media, this is my wife, the girl I have secretly loved for many years. Many criticized you, saying you were blinded by love, and many unfollowed you, but you didn't care, saying athletes are judged by their achievements. You took me everywhere seeking treatment for my leg, provided rehabilitation, played the piano to soothe my anxiety, and sang to me. You held me as I slept, becoming my exclusive sleeping aid. Slowly, you healed me, and I returned to the stage. I hugged him tightly, whispering in his ear, every day with you has been a happy one. He patted my back slowly, but I still came into your life too late. I leaned against Chi-chen's chest, not letting him see the tears in my eyes. I didn't tell him that our happiness didn't last forever. Chi-chen was at the peak of his career when we married. At that time, he had won the Grand Slam and was a national hero. But the prime years of an athlete are few, and no one can remain at the top forever. Yet, the expectations for him were extremely high, so much so that even a second-place finish was criticized as a lack of dedication due to me, until one competition, already injured. He also developed a high fever right before. I was so worried that I insisted he withdraw, but then a fanatical fan swung a knife at me, shouting that I was dragging him down, and Chi-chen, instinctively, shielded me with his body. As the college entrance exams approached, Chi-chen and I crammed for academic subjects while also intensely honing our professional skills. Fortunately, in the next competition, Chi-chen won the provincial championship. I devoted all my energy to the art exam. On the day of the exam, I rubbed his gold medal for good luck, hoping some of his winning aura would rub off on me. With the boost from the medal, I performed steadily throughout. Surprisingly, I ended up ranking first in the art exam. After the exam, I had planned to give him a big hug. Unexpectedly, I bumped into the celebrity I adore. He was taller and more handsome in person, and he even greeted me. Hello, your dance was fantastic. I was thrilled, and quickly asked Chi-chen to take a photo of us. The celebrity, noticing the person frowning beside me, curiously asked, who is he? Oh, he's my classmate. On the way back, someone acted like a scorned lover. Classmate? Why not husband anymore? So, you don't love me now that you've succeeded. Me, shut up. So I'm just the other man, right? I'm just a joke, right? Me, don't make me kiss you in front of all these people. He immediately fell silent. I sneakily poked his waist. When can I kiss you? He blushed. Wait. When there's no one around. Soon after, the results of the college entrance exam were released, and both Chi-chen and I passed. We both received admission letters from our desired universities. Unexpectedly, Shani did not go abroad but instead joined Su Xing at the same university in Beijing. The combination of these top students from the same class still caused a sensation at the university. They continued to compete and win awards together. On the school forum, someone posted a photo of the two, commenting on how they were a perfect match. Faced with public speculation, Shani straightforwardly denied it. Just classmates. I have someone I like. Later, some noticed that he indeed seemed to have someone he liked. He enjoyed attending classical dance performances. Each time, he would bring a bouquet of sunflowers, leading people to speculate that it was for the girl he liked. By then, we were sophomores. Chi-chen, due to his excellent grades, joined the national team. I became an overnight internet celebrity after being a dance stand-in for a hit TV series. Online comments praised, Lin Yuaya dances so well, truly worthy of being the top art exam candidate. With that face and figure, have you considered entering showbiz? I heard there's a recent performance, rushed to buy tickets overnight, the theater performances were sold out, gradually, people noticed, at every performance. In the first row, there was always a boy with a bouquet of sunflowers. Quietly watching the stage, eventually, it spread that this boy was a top scholar from a prestigious university and my childhood friend. Fans online began to wildly ship our relationship. During this frenzy, Su Xing posted a photo online of her and Shani in a competition, captioned, "The ones who understand each other best." However, this time, she faced a barrage of criticism. "Not her, sister. Shani has already denied it. He said you're just classmates. What are you trying to gain by posting this, big sister? Are you desperate for fame?" Su Xing, you used to look down on others because of your grades in school, and everyone was disgusted by you. What does their childhood friendship have to do with you? Who gave you the confidence that Shani would like you? Such a scheming, malicious look. Lin Yueya outclasses you in looks, body, and grace. The gossip about this was unprecedentedly hot online. Even Xinyi's parents accepted a media interview, stating, "Little Yu, she is our daughter-in-law. She and Xiaoyi have been childhood sweethearts, and we arranged a betrothal for them when they were young. After Xiaoyi's parents passed away, we took her into our home, nurtured her dancing skills, and cherished her as our own daughter." Observing the starkly different attitudes of the couple, I couldn't help but find it amusing. I ignored all their attempts to make amends over the phone and instead sent out a contract prepared by a lawyer back in the day. It clearly stated how they had profited from my family's assets over the years. I thought this couple was kind-hearted, but it turns out they were bleeding me dry. Xiaoyi has been dancing since she was 7. How can you claim you nurtured that? You suck the blood of others and still expect gratitude. Have you no shame? Many media have been asking me about my relationship with Shani. Is it true that Shani and you were childhood sweethearts? After some thought, from the same village, but not close, I then tweeted, tagging Qi Chen, "This is my not yet legal husband." Instantly, Qi Chen's account gained numerous followers. God bless, as chosen by Yu Yi. Indeed, all the handsome ones are offered to the nation. With such a physique and those long legs, one can only imagine how delightful it would be to lie on top of him. What a perfect match. I'm totally shipping them. That night, I was blissfully lying on a set of 8-pack abs. He was no longer at the age where every touch irritated him. The variety was exceptionally great and full of effort. I gradually found it hard to keep up. After swimming 3 kilometers, how can he still have so much energy? Let's sleep. I'm exhausted. I protested loudly. I grabbed his mischievous hands. Tie my clothes properly. He skillfully dodged, his voice husky. Honey, how can you sleep dressed like that, after the performance? I still ended up seeing Shani. This man, truly despicable. Back when I chased after him, he was indifferent. Now that I avoid him, he clings like a relentless persistent nuisance. He held flowers, his expression forlorn. Xiaoyi, I understand. I've done many things in the past that hurt you, but I truly liked you. All these years, I always thought you would look back at me. His head bowed, his voice hoarse and his eyes reddening. I don't understand why you suddenly stopped caring about me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but past scenes flashed through my mind like a hopeless dream. Shani, I had a dream. After graduation, you left me and Su Xing to study abroad, saying we'd get married once you graduated. I waited, and when you graduated, you said you needed a career before you could marry me, asking me to wait a bit longer. Later, you and Su Xing started a business together, spending days and nights together, admired by all as a golden couple. No one knew I was your girlfriend. I begged you to come see my performance, just once, to bring me a single flower, and I would have forgiven you, but you never came. He stood there, somewhat in disbelief. I looked at him and gave a bitter smile. You said, what was the point of such a small theater? Do you know how busy I've been every day? Yes, you've been busy dating Su Xing, ringing the Nasdaq bell together, traveling, and meeting each other's parents. I waited for you for so many years, and I'm not content, but what can I do? Everyone thinks I'm the villain. In fact, I've been sick for a long time, and in the end, I attempted suicide multiple times like a madwoman, facing my repeated moral coercion. You got annoyed and asked if marrying you wasn't enough, but just on the eve of our wedding, Su Xing sent me her pregnancy report, and I, in a daze, fell from a high stage and became crippled. I closed my eyes, my throat tightening. In the end, your parents gave me some money, telling me to fend for myself. He froze, then frantically explained, how could I do this? I wouldn't treat you that way. Xiaoyi, I promised I'd always protect you. It's just a dream. I shook my head indifferently. No, it's not, Shani. I may not be clever, but I'm not stupid. I looked straight at him. Do you really like me? No, it's just your reluctance. You're so smart. You know what I like, why I'm unhappy, and how to appease me. But you just won't do it, letting me suffer again and again. You just enjoy my admiration and Su Xing's appreciation of you, wanting both. Put away your cheap affection. I don't value it, and you don't deserve it. After joining the national team, Qichen began participating in international competitions. He kept breaking his own records. The whole world saw his brilliance. After gaining some fame, I focused wholeheartedly on preparing for the Taoli Cup competition. The Taoli Cup is the most prestigious honor in the dance world. My mother's biggest regret before she passed away was not winning the championship, so I was determined to give it my all to make up for her regret. Qichen and I, it turns out, spent more time apart than together. During a rare moment, we dated near the school. Just a few steps into our walk, a car suddenly rushed out at the intersection. Qichen reacted almost instantly, protecting me behind him. After a loud crash, we both fell to the ground. Scenes of him bloodied in a past life flashed through my mind, my heart seemingly gripped by an invisible hand. I trembled all over, screaming his name. Qichen, honey, I'm okay, really, I'm okay. He clumsily tried to comfort me. Don't cry, don't cry. It's just a scrape, I'm fine. Tears already streaming down my face, I shakily touched his face, sobbing uncontrollably. Jerk, you scared me to death. You're not dead, you didn't die. I held him tightly. From now on, you're not allowed to get hurt, bleed, or stand in front of me. He nodded repeatedly. Okay, but I didn't know. No matter how many times we do this over, at the moment of danger, he would still instinctively protect me. It took us a long time to recover. Only then did we realize the person in the car was Su Xing. Lin Yueya, you didn't die. She stared at me fixedly, her face pale, her eyes hollow, yet her features had already changed. Here is the translation of the provided text. It was so fake, her face marred by obvious signs of plastic surgery. There was a time when rumors circulated that Su Xing had started undergoing extensive cosmetic procedures. I didn't pay much attention to it, but it turned out to be true. A high school classmate once gossiped that she had confessed her feelings to Shani. Shani rejected her without hesitation, commenting that her actions were incredibly degrading. Su Xing, unwilling to let it go, demanded to know why. Annoyed, Shani curtly replied, a lot of answers can be found just by looking in the mirror. Back then, many online were harsh, ridiculing her for making a spectacle of herself. She began to get more plastic surgeries, each time becoming less satisfied with her face. Her family wasn't very wealthy, and eventually, she started taking out online loans. Her academics suffered greatly, leading to disciplinary actions from her school, ultimately unable to repay her debts. She even became involved with a middle-aged businessman as his mistress. Su Xing stared at me, hysterical and screaming, it's all because of you, you've ruined my life. Lin Yueya, why does everyone adore you while I'm forced to live in the shadows, even though I'm so much more talented than you? I simply smiled calmly and said, perhaps, it's karma. Looking at Su Xing, once proud and arrogant, now in utter ruin, I paused for a moment then said, let's call the police. The year I graduated from university, hard work pays off, and I won the Peach Blossom Cup. As soon as I stepped off the stage, I saw someone with a bouquet of flowers waving at me. I ran into his arms excitedly and asked, did I dance beautifully? You were mesmerizing, like a fairy. He stared at me, infatuated, and said, question King Zhou, understand King Zhou, become King Zhou. That same year, Qichen represented our country at the Olympics. At 22, he raced through the pool with astonishing speed and endurance, leaving the world record far behind, achieving another milestone. During the award ceremony, as the national flag was raised, his eyes welled up with tears. When interviewed by the national media, he couldn't hold back his emotions and burst into tears. Thank you to my country, my coach, and thank you to my wife. His voice choked up, tears falling more and more fervently. Soon, reporters gathered around trying to console him. Just then, as if remembering something crucial, he frantically pulled out a diamond ring from his pocket, sobbing uncontrollably. The reporters, seeing no other option, turned to me, desperate. Please say yes to him, or we'll never calm him down. Looking at this blubbering mess, I couldn't help but laugh. I quickly went over to embrace him, slipping the ring onto my finger. There, it's okay, I accept. After a while, with a flushed face, he asked me, was I embarrassing just now? I sighed, well, it wasn't too bad. He raised his hands, promising, next time, I definitely won't cry. I rolled my eyes at him. He always says that, yet always ends up shedding tears. Half the pool's water must be his. In the following years, Chechen continued representing our country, earning more honors. I, through hard work, took to even greater stages. At 28, Chechen could no longer compete and retired with honors, starting to coach young athletes to break his own records. I also passed the stage on to younger dancers and returned to teaching. That year, we started planning for a child. A bit worried, I asked him, do you think our child might end up being rather slow? He replied, if they're talented, they'll serve the country. If mediocre, they'll be our joy. Neither of us had a complete family or love growing up. We decided to relive our own childhoods through them. On our 10th graduation anniversary, we attended the school celebration as distinguished alumni, along with several classmates. Suddenly, someone mentioned, hey, do you know Shani? I heard his family went bankrupt. I heard he made a lot of money by investing in real estate right after graduation, but then the industry slumped. And his investments failed. Now his company has gone bankrupt and is being liquidated. I was momentarily dazed, finding the name strangely unfamiliar. Hey, did you used to have feelings for him back in the day? I shook my head frantically, not at all.